We need the Chucky laugh at the end there. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Dead Air. It has been a while. It's been since like March, something like that.
Has it been that long?
It was right around when Promising Young Woman came out. Is the last thing we were talking about. That and Joss Whedon and all that shenanigans. So we are here today to talk about horror in 2021. So we're halfway through the year. We have a shitload of horror for the rest of the year, both on the big screen and the small screen. So me and CP figured what better time to get together and talk about all of these movies and shows coming out, what we are looking forward to, what we're skeptical about, what we couldn't give a shit about, and shoot the shit with all of you guys to see what you think. So CP, how are you doing?
How are you? Long time no see.
It's Monday. It's Monday.
Yeah.
I'm sleep deprived and aggravated and all of that stuff. But now I'm better because we're here.
Yeah.
So yes. All the usual suspects I see in the chat room. Already got 96 of you guys in here, so go ahead and pile on in. So it's been a while, but we have we'll try to if we roll through these faster than we think, then at the end of the show we'll go through all the horror that we've seen so far in 2021, like Army of the Dead, Quiet Place 2, Old. But the first movie, Spiral, yes, from the Book of Saw. How can I forget? Where's the Saw 5 review? So we have so first up, the next horror film that we have coming out is on August 13th, and that is Don't Breathe 2. I was a huge fan of the first movie, as I was with the Evil Dead remake by Fede Alvarez. I'm kind of curious why that guy hasn't blown up even more since then, because he had like 2 huge wins back to back as far as I'm concerned. But he's not directing this one. We've got another guy coming in to direct. He is producing it. I believe he wrote this one, or at least had a hand in the writing. And Sam Raimi is producing it. And he is quoted as saying from IGN, "The greatest idea for a sequel I've ever heard." So,
who said that?
Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi said that about Don't Breathe 2. I have seen the trailer. Have you?
Yes.
Yes. What's your thoughts?
He looks too much like a badass in that. Like he could tell where you are by the splashes in water now. I mean,
it's badass, dude. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, badass is badass, but at the same time, I'm like, really?
I thought that was rather cool, to be honest with you. But yeah, so I saw the trailer. I thought it looked pretty cool. I mean, I didn't watch all of it because I felt like it was showing a lot of the movie. I heard that they did that with the first film. The first film, I was lucky enough to walk in blind, no pun intended. So I really enjoyed the first one. The second one looks like it's going to be right up there. I am a little bit worried about the director switch, but I don't really understand why Fede Alvarez would come out with this awesome new movie that's going to become a franchise and then immediately hand it over to somebody else. I don't know if he's working on something at the moment where he just time obligations couldn't do it or what, but the trailer looked pretty good. The thing that I saw a lot of people griping about with the trailer is that they feel like the second movie is making him out to be a good guy, the blind man.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen the first movie, you know that is not the case, or at least it wasn't the case in the first movie. So the way that I saw the trailer was not that he's suddenly a good guy. He's just the hero of his own story here. So, I mean, people, bank robbers and all that shit, they still prey on people that might be bad people. You know what I mean? So just because he's a bad guy doesn't mean he's immune to somebody breaking into his house. So I think that a lot of those people will be surprised when you get into the movie that he's not just suddenly going to be this changed man and he's the hero. I think he's just the bad guy, but there's other bad guys he's got to fuck up for 90 minutes.
He also wrote Texas Chainsaw Massacre that's coming out later this year.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
That's a new detail that I knew he was producing. I didn't know that he wrote it. So he must be doing a lot of writing. He must be doing like a Quentin Tarantino thing where he's sending some scripts out while he's getting money for his next movie or something like that.
He's directing a series called Calls, which I am not familiar with. It seems like he's directing all of the episodes.
Gotcha. We have a super chat from Sean Sheridan. Wrong, my best horror movie of the year and the biggest shock quality-wise. Spiral was okay. at best. Thoughts on Jeepers Creepers now it's out of Salva's hands, and thoughts on Freaky with Vince Vaughn. Well, that's way too much for me to answer. I will. We are going to talk about Jeepers Creepers at the end. As far as Freaky, I thought it was okay. That's about as far as I can get into it. So, moving on from that. Hello, Dad. Papa Leach in the chat. Coming up right after that is a movie that I almost forgot to include, and we just had to watch the trailer to it right before we went live. We were like, oh, shit, that one. So we've got Demonic coming from Neil Blomkamp. Neil Blomkamp being the guy that gave us District 9, Elysium, and Chappie. I have not seen Chappie, but I really like District 9, and I'm one of the few people, Brian Lomax is in my company, that loved Elysium, actually preferred Elysium to District 9. So we just watched Demonic. And to me, it looked like a much more sci-fi heavy version of Possessor. Woman going in with a little headset. I guess she's going into a different reality or something like that. And it's a lot of creepy imagery, definitely toned down. Like what you were saying, a lot of the body horror, that very Cronenberg feel of Possessor for more sci-fi, like almost like Event Horizon imagery. But it looks interesting. It definitely it looks like a change of pace for the guy.
Yeah. Completely different than anything Neil Blomkamp has done. Because Neil Blomkamp, all of his movies seem like they're in a dank, urban part of
derelict.
Yeah, just apocalyptic, end of the world, garbage town. That's like every movie he does is that environment, and now it's just like, oh, sci-fi stuff. Okay, cool.
I also wanted to say before we move on that because it's been a while, I figured I would go festive and bring this to the party. I was at the gas station. I was just like, oh, I got to get one of these just so I can join in on the cancer growing fun. Oh, man. Let's see. We got a couple more super chats popping in here. And I did see somebody ask, Dylan Cooper, have you guys checked out Possessor yet?
Yes.
Thoughts? So we can do that really quickly. CB, I'll let you start.
I did see Possessor. Where is it on my list?
Do you need me to start?
Shit. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I wasn't avoiding it. It was one of those movies that for whatever reason just kept getting put off, and I eventually bought the Blu-ray at Walmart, and I showed it on my my off the shelves, and all the comments were like, "Dude, you fucked up. You didn't buy the uncut version." So then I went online. I didn't realize there was two different cuts available. So then I bought the uncut version, gave the rated R version to my dad. I liked it. It's not a movie that I think I would ever really rewatch or that I would rewatch very often. But like we were talking about before we went live, definitely Cronenberg-y. Like he definitely learned from his father. If you didn't know that was his son, you'd swear that David Cronenberg was back. High on the gore. Very interesting concept. And I thought it was the whole theme that they're trying to get forward with this chick really being a psycho and a murderer, and she has to strip herself of all of her humanity basically by the end to become that killer. I thought that was kind of neat by the end of it, but definitely not a movie that I would rewatch over and over.
Yeah, I'm checking now. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. I put it right in the middle.
Yeah, 3.5, 3.75, and the only thing I would take off of it is just rewatch value. Really,
yeah,
there wasn't really anything.
Yeah, high concept. It's something that really catches your attention. But would I want to go back and watch it again? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's not. It's the farthest thing from a feel good movie.
Yeah.
The tone and everything. You're just like, fuck. I'm depressed and I want to take a shower. We got 2 from Canales. Have you played any Half-Life games? I have only played Half-Life 2 and the episodes after that. Try to keep the questions related to what we're talking about, though, guys. I don't want to bounce around too much, but I appreciate the super chat. Smile back if you're ugly. Do you think someone should make a crossover? Like, for example, Dr. Loomis from Halloween is assigned to Hannibal Lecter. No, I do not. If you want something like that, watch Behind the Mask, the Rise of Leslie Vernon. You'll get all all that you need from that concept. Matthew with $4.99. Thank you so much. So So demonic, yeah, I'm curious. I'm very curious. Neil Blomkamp kind of went away for a while. You know, he was trying to do the proper Alien sequel, the proper Alien 3. And I still really want to see that. I mean, just the special effects alone would probably blow our balls off.
Wasn't there a point in time where they were doing both? They were doing both his and Ridley Scott's for like a hot second?
Maybe a sneeze, and I think
Yeah.
Ridley Scott put the kibosh on that.
Yeah.
I think he was like, bitch, this is mine. Go make Elysium 2. So, yeah, there's people that love that Ridley Scott took over it. I'm one of those people that I can appreciate what he's done with Prometheus and with Alien Covenant, but I much would prefer to see that Alien 3 that we saw that concept art for. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe one day. All right, moving on past demonic is my most anticipated movie of the year, and that is Candyman. The Candyman reboot, the proper sequel to the original, hopefully. And I've been psyched to see this ever since they announced it, ever since they kind of gave hints about what the direction was going to be. That first teaser trailer, I thought, nailed it. They gave a full-on trailer not too long ago, which just kind of made me even more excited. I was actually introduced to Candyman when all of us reviewed it back when we were on Scream Stream. That was the first time I had ever seen it, when Shout Factory released it. And I was like, God damn, I'm kicking myself in the ass because I love this, and I should have been watching this my whole damn life. So I love the original, not so much the sequels. I don't know if you've seen 2 and 3, but 2, I was like, fuck, man. And then everybody was saying 3 was worse, and I was like, what? Really? It gets worse than this? I have yet to even review 3, so I'll probably do that right before Candyman comes out. But yeah, those sequels are atrocious. So they don't have to make a very good movie to be the best Candyman sequel. That's for fucking sure. But what are your hopes for this movie? Do you want it to be very closely tied to that first movie, almost like you could watch them together? Do you want it to do something bold and new? I mean, obviously it's a new Candyman. I don't know what extent we're going to get Tony Todd. I could almost bet my left nut that he's going to be in there for at least a scene. But it feels very much like a passing the torch movie. Are you up for that, or is it Tony Todd or nothing?
It feels like this new wave reboot-quel, a la Force Awakens, where it feels very similar to events from the first one, and except they've changed the backstory, which is a little more modern, a little more.
I have a feeling that that's going to be something in the movie where they're just addressing how urban legends evolve over time. I don't know if they're necessarily retconning the first one, where it's like, oh yeah, that other shit. No, it's this now. I think it's just, as generations go through and share that story, they tweak it, they update it. It's just like if you sit in a room and you tell a story to this guy, he tells a story to the next guy. By the time it gets to the 4th or 5th person, the story is unrecognizable.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact in a trailer they show a dude giving candy to kids, and the stick figure people are the police are going after him. I hope that they don't make it too. Listen, I know you're gonna have to have some subtext and stuff like that, but please don't get too heavy with the message.
Yeah, that's kind of a given nowadays. It's like, okay, you're starting to preach. Pump the brakes. Fear Street. So we have so Candyman, so it's directed by this woman, Nia DaCosta, which I believe this is her first film. But even before the public has seen Candyman, Marvel literally yanked her and said, here is the Captain Marvel franchise, it's yours. So that gives me a lot of hope. I mean, I don't know how the inner workings of Hollywood works. I don't know if when they have a movie like this, different studios get to see rough cuts of it, or what about this woman impressed them enough for them to just be like, here you go. But I like to think that they saw Candyman and went, hell yeah, here's a whole franchise. So I'm excited for it. The only thing that annoys me about it is I wish people would quit calling it Jordan Peele's Candyman.
Yeah.
Because he's just a producer. But I swear, it feels like one of those situations, kind of like when with some of Zack Snyder's WB stuff, where if the movie's awesome, Jordan Peele is going to get all the credit, and if it sucks, Nia DaCosta's going to get all the blame.
Yeah. Yeah, like when James Cameron's name was linked to Terminator,
Dark Fate.
yeah, whatever. It's just like, wait a minute, he's not directing the movie. Stop saying his name.
He delivered cookies to the set. Yeah. There you go, guys. Looks great. Make sure my name's in big font. Oh man. So yeah, I'm excited as hell for Candyman. I was bummed, even though I knew it was coming. I was bummed as shit whenever they pushed it back. I thought that was a movie that might slip onto VOD, but I'm glad that I waited for it, because I'm hoping it's going to be a success, and I'm hoping it's going to be successful enough to where if it's awesome, we get more Candymans, because that's definitely a horror slasher franchise that has a lot more potential than it's been showing. You know what I mean? So I don't want it to be a one and done. It's like, well, that was cool, and I want it to live on.
And it has representation. It it doesn't have to force feed it. It there's so many boxes checked with that franchise. Yes, please make it good.
Absolutely. We got a super chat from Diamond Dog's Puppy. How big of a role do you see Tony Todd having in Candyman, and do you think it will even come close to the quality of the original? Well, that second question is always a loaded question, because you never really think that it's going to top the original, because the original is always a classic for nostalgic reasons, or for just the fact that it's the original. I hope that the most expectation that I have is that I hope it feels like a proper, respectful sequel that continues the story in a good way. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I hope that when you watch the first one, you can easily recommend, oh, definitely watch that one. That one's good too. And then for the other one, for Tony Todd, I get the vibe from the trailers that this new guy, this character who has been confirmed to be the baby from the first movie, is going to be becoming, by the end of the movie, our new Candyman, and he's going to carry on the franchise. That's
in the apartment, the baby. The baby that she saved. Yeah. Okay.
So that's him. That's the main character, and so I'm getting the vibe from the trailer. And it makes sense that he's going to be taking on the mantle of Candyman by the end of this movie, and that's going to be our new Candyman, which I'm cool with, because I like that actor. But Tony Todd needs to be in at least one scene to visually pass the torch in some way. So if he's not in the movie whatsoever, that's going to be a big disappointment for all Candyman fans. But I think all Candyman fans need to temper their expectations. He's not going to be in this movie a lot. If he was, they would have showed it in the trailer.
It's going to be hard to top his voice, man.
Well, even in the trailer, it doesn't. I'm pretty sure that's the new guy's voice in the trailer when, be my victim. And even I was like, that's not quite it. That's the hard thing about when you got slashers with those iconic voices. It's just like Freddy. It's just like Chucky, especially, where it's like, damn, dude, you can get even Mark Hamill, the great Mark Hamill, to do Chucky, and it's like, that's not Chucky, and it just doesn't. Your brain can't compute it. But yeah, I'm expecting one big scene in the movie where he's going to show up and pass the torch to the guy in some way.
Maybe like a flashback or something. He'll be, he'll be Candyman for the flashback or something like that. I don't know. He's got to be in at least one scene and, pass the torch.
Yeah, something kind of like the Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Rundown. You got to get at least something like that, where have fun, or I don't know.
Wait, what? The Rundown?
Yeah, with the Rock, with the Rundown. Then the very beginning where he passes Arnold Schwarzenegger on the way to the club, and Arnold Schwarzenegger says, have fun. And then that was kind of like his way of like, you're the new action star, here you go.
I haven't seen that. That's funny.
You've never seen the Rundown?
No.
Dude, that might still be The Rock's best movie. It's a conversation for another day, man. You're missing out. Sean Sheridan, never seen Candyman 3, but 2 is a decent sequel. 2 is only made decent by watching 3. That's what I'll say. And then Desi comes in with 3. Hey, guys, thoughts on the new Exorcist sequel? So David Gordon Green is already been hired to do a Halloween 2018 style treatment to The Exorcist. And I think I saw something today, don't quote me on it, where they've already planned a new trilogy of Exorcist movies.
Oh, man.
I think I saw Bloody Disgusting. So literally the same exact deal. You do this one, it's awesome. You get 2 more. I don't know I don't really have any thoughts on it. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Exorcist a lot towards the end of the year in October because we're doing it for 31 on 31. I have not seen the original in years. I've never seen the second one. I haven't seen the third one in years, although that one is my favorite from my memory. Good. And I've never seen any of the prequels. So I really don't have any thoughts on the Exorcist sequel. All that I will say is that I don't really need David Gordon Green to become hey, let's reboot and do a bunch of sequels to this franchise guy. So I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on it until I see more about it. I don't know how you can do a direct sequel to that movie when it's a very finite story.
Yeah. I would say society's a lot less religious than it was 45 years ago or whatever the original came out. So it'll be interesting to see how they keep it relevant. I mean, a lot of kids these days are not religious at all. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. And then we'll do this one really quickly. I'll let you go first. We'll say one sentence. What would you ask Don Mancini? You're at a con and you get to ask him a question.
One, huh? What were you thinking after Curse to do whatever you did in Cult?
Yep. I would let you answer that one and get the bullets, and then I would step out from behind you and I would say, what did you think of the remake? No, I mean, in all seriousness, I don't know what I would ask Don Mancini. I mean, I love and respect the guy for what he's given us as far as keeping the franchise alive for this long. There's not really any other slasher franchise that I think is still going with the same timeline. But with that being said, he's taken that timeline into a fucking million different directions that I don't really care for. So I don't know. I would hope that I could have a cool conversation with him. I hope that he wouldn't you're the guy on YouTube, aren't you? You're the guy that hated Cult.
The one.
Yeah, the one.
As if there's only one.
I started the movement. I started the cult against Cult. Oh, man. So that brings us to... Candyman's coming out August 27th, by the way. That brings us to September with James Wan's newest film, Malignant. Now, I have not watched the trailer for this, and I'm not going to. All I know about the plot is that she's having visions of murders, and apparently the murders are real. She's haunted by something. It sounds very expected of James Wan for his kind of style of horror. But... that's all I need to know about it. James Wan horror movie. They could just call it that. James Wan's next horror movie starting in September. Okay, I'll buy my ticket now. I don't love everything that James Wan does, but the dude has not done anything that I have disliked. Not a single thing in any genre that he's done. I think that he does awesome in horror, obviously. He does great with action. He did great with Aquaman. Revenge thriller with Death Sentence. That might even be my favorite of his. So I'm a big James Wan fan, a big James Wan champion. And so I prefer nowadays to walk into horror movies, especially as blind as I can. So I don't know anything about this movie. I don't know if you saw the trailer. You can elaborate without
there are pieces there are pieces of it in our intro. So it looks like if you were to just change sleep with hallucination in general, it feels like a CGI'd modern Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh. And yeah, a lot of trippy shit going. Yeah, a lot of trippy shit going on. Like the world around her is changing, and it really, really, really interesting. I just hope it isn't too reliant on the CGI.
Yeah, my biggest thing, I hope it's not just the same old bag of James Wan tricks, because he does what he does very well, but he has a very specific bag of tricks that he tends to go back to. I mean, Insidious was essentially, to me, like him working out some of the kinks for The Conjuring. The Conjuring had a lot of the same tricks as far as how he sets up jump scares and how he sets up tension, and I would like to see him do something very wildly different. The premise alone, without watching the trailer, doesn't sound all that removed from something like Conjuring and Insidious. So I'm very intrigued. I'll be there day one, but I'm going to try to stay as blind as possible, and hopefully I walk out and say, fuck yeah, give me another one, James Wan, because I love what that guy does. Him and Lee Winnell are like kind of like the two just to keep your eyes on anymore. I would even say Lee Winnell even more anymore. So looking forward to it.
He's kind of spreading out even further a bit. Winnell is, at least.
Yeah, exactly. I love what that guy's doing. All right, so let's see if we got anybody in the chat talking about
Dallas. It's not going to happen,
Dallas. There's no way in hell, dude.
It's not going to happen.
No way in hell. Not on any no earth whatsoever. Saw and Death Sentence are still my top 2 favorite. See, Saw is pretty far down on my James Wan ranking if I was to do one. I did see Conjuring 3. Was not impressed. I thought that it was very weak. I thought that it was it had a giant James Wan sized hole in its heart. You could tell it was just like, let's get on one of the, I think it was the director of that La Llorona movie, which makes a lot of sense. But the problem with the Conjuring universe to me, and I like some of those movies. I think Annabelle Creation is pretty awesome. And Annabelle Comes Home was pretty decent watch. All the other ones I could pretty much take or leave. But the problem with the Conjuring universe is that you have the Conjuring movies, at least the first 2, that are like, man, that's it. Those are the ones. And then you have all the other ones which feel like other directors trying to copy James Wan's style. And so when you get somebody that made possibly at least the bottom 3 weakest of the universe in the La Llorona movie and say, here, do the third Conjuring movie, it just doesn't flow. It doesn't have that quality you expect from the Conjuring proper movies. So I thought that, I mean, the leads are great. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, they're always great. But I thought it was interesting to have a human antagonist this time. That was interesting. But all the jump scares, the setup of the movie, even just the CGI and all the possession scenes, it's just like this wash, rinse, repeat shit. It's just like, okay, this person's possessed. We got to have shit fly around the room, and we're going to scream Bible verses at him. And it's just, I was bored. There was nothing in the movie where I was like, oh, I'll remember that.
I didn't like the amount of time they spent with Patrick Wilson's character and his little issue that he had during the movie. And it was like, all right, what are you trying to do something here? Because that's kind of a big deal. All right. You're not making a drama. So why are we spending so much time with this?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, you had the first one is just so iconic for different reasons, different scenes. I mean, the hide and clap game, the witch, that initial jump scene where she's up on the armoire. You go to the second one, you've got Valak the nun, you've got the crooked man or whatever the hell he is, and the crosses going upside down. Like, you could think of specific iconic scenes, characters, moments in those first 2 movies. Not a fucking moment in that third movie that I'm like, yeah, that one stands out. Like, even now I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
You played records?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody was yelling about something. So the moment we've all been waiting for, right? So we've got I believe October, what the fuck is it? October 2nd or something like that. Somebody will correct me. We have the Chucky TV series, which is going to be on Sci-Fi. They also show USA, so I don't know if it's going to be USA and Sci-Fi, or if they're just partners on it, or if USA owns Sci-Fi and I'm just ignorant to it. But we've known that this TV series has been coming for a while. I mean, they've been talking about it since before the remake was even finished shooting. I've done multiple videos back in the day where I was talking about the pros and cons of both and which one am I excited for. So I feel like I've been talking about the Chucky TV series for a couple of years now, at least. And it's finally months away. Did you watch the trailer?
Yes, I did.
What do you think?
I feel like they're and not in a negative way. I feel like they're retreading one. And if they stretch it and do it right, it could be something special where people think the kid is doing it, for, you know, a long stretch of the season, that could be real neat. But it does feel like a shadow of Child's Play 1.
I'm right there with you to a certain extent. I think that, especially with the look of the doll, which I think is awesome. I think the doll looks great. It feels like it's going back to Child's Play 1, Child's Play 2 intentionally. I'm right there with you. The kid being older.
The high school aspect's a little funky.
Yeah. And I said that when I was doing my reaction. I was like, what the fuck you doing with the doll in high school, bro? Like, it was just weird. Like, in the middle of class, he's got his doll next to him. I'm like, first of all, the teacher would never allow that. Second of all, you're asking for an ass whooping. 3, what? But we'll see what explanation we get for that. But yeah, I'm with you, because taking that concept of that first movie and making it a 10-hour story sounds very intriguing to me. The tone of the trailer looked really good. You could tell they were bleeped a little bit, which gives me a smile, because that means we're going to get F-bombs and gore and all that anyway, even though it's on sci-fi. But the humor, the one-liners seem like they're going to be pretty good, because I thought they were terrible in Cult. And even the voice acting, like the way that it's matching the animatronics, I thought looked a lot better than Cult. There was something wonky about Cult where it just never... It never felt right to me. I'd have to almost watch it and point out spots. So all of that had me excited. Devon Sawa, love to see him back in horror. He's playing 2 different characters, like twins or something. There was one where he was goateed and like in a mechanic suit, and there was another one where I guess he's the kid's father. But from what the premise has been saying, so Chucky's going to be unleashing hell on this little suburban neighborhood, and we're going to get to like find out these dirty little secrets of all these different people and all these different houses and everything. All of that sounds great. Everything I saw in the trailer looks great. The only reservation that I have is that we already know that Jennifer Tilly's coming back, that Fiona Dorff is coming back, Alex Vincent is coming back, Christine Elise McCarthy is coming back, Kyle. So we have all of these characters from the original movies and coming off of the end of Cult, which means inevitably at some point in the show, Don Mancini is going to tie it to Cult and try to explain where we are now in this story, in this timeline. So we're going to get Nika, who is currently possessed by Chucky. We're going to get Jennifer Tilly, who I love to death, but her performance as Tiffany has been a little wonky since Bride, in my opinion. I mean, she's pretty good in Seed too. I won't credit her out for Seed. Seed's just its own problem. But Curse, that one scene she was in, pretty decent. Cult, I just felt like she really phoned it in. So I'm hoping to God, she seems to love this character. This seems to be like her role, like the role of her life. That
she threw shade at the remake. It was just like,
yeah. Dude, so relax. She's very invested in this, and you see her posting stuff with Don Mancini and Chucky all the time. So she lives and breathes this franchise. So I'm hoping whatever they do with her character is great, and it's not just going to feel like, okay, guys, here's Jennifer Tilly doing the Jennifer Tilly thing. And then we got to get Andy, we got to get Kyle back in here. So the only thing that I'm worried about is that the trailer maybe showed us the first episode, maybe the second episode, and then somewhere along the way in the series, it might go off the rails and go into all this weird directions that there's no way to tie it to Cult without it being weird to some extent to me, because everything they did in Cult I didn't like. I hated the multiple Chucky dolls. I hated the new ability to be able to just possess anything, multiple Chuckies. I did not like the fact that he possessed Nika at the end. I didn't like Alex Vincent's plan, and they made him kind of seem like a jackass in that movie, where it's like, how is that supposed to work? Literally the only part of that I'm excited about is seeing how they're going to bring Kyle back, because we only got her at the very tail end of Cult, and that's all we got. And there's still the Chucky Prime severed head or whatever that they have. So that's the only thing I'm worried about, is at what point in this show are you going to incorporate the movies in a way that makes sense for somebody that's watching the show that maybe isn't up to date on the movies, and is it going to derail the show for the sake of making the movies make sense?
Yeah, they completely lost focus. The original deal was he had to get a kid's body in a certain amount of time, otherwise he was stuck in that doll. And then he had to do it again and again, and then it was an amulet he had to get, and like the rules just kept bending. But now he reads
one word.
zombies for, or what was it? The Dummies book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's presto. He could take control of anything.
Yeah.
Don Mancini should have taken the remake as a bit of a slap in the face and a wake up call. Like, dude, you're getting a little out of control. And if he just goes ahead and does more of that shit on this TV series, there's going to be a problem.
That's what worries me about it, and that's the only thing that I have reservations with Don Mancini having all the creative control, is that I have never seen or read anywhere where he has taken the criticism for Seed, especially, or even Cult, and acknowledged it in a way where it's like, okay, I tried some things, it didn't work for everybody. It seems like he loves what he does, and you're either on board or fuck off. Like, not in a shitty way. He's not like telling his fans to fuck off, but it's like, dude, this is my story.
Yeah.
This is my franchise.
This is my vision.
Chucky is
my
mine,
character. Yeah.
my vision. We're going my direction. So get on or get off. And that's what worries me, because somebody like that doubles down. And so when you see Seed and everybody's like, fuck that movie, and then you get Curse and everybody's like, I'm back on board. And he's like, oh, you're back on board? Well, here's more Seed and Cult. Yeah. And so I'm just worried, like, what Don Mancini are we going to get? Because it definitely feels like there's two sides to him. There's the side that is very strict on his lore and knows what the fans want, or at least most of what the fans want. And then there's the kind that has all these very bold, huge ideas that just goes for it. And for me, that side's a little scary. So I don't know. I have all the faith in the world that this is probably going to be enjoyable. I'm going to review every episode when it does come out. I just worry that when we get to that point where the show needs to tie into the movies, that I'm going to start cringing and rolling my eyes. I'm going to be like, fuck, you had a good thing going. Like, it can be its own thing. So I don't know. We'll see. But I love everything that I've seen so far.
Alternate universe or something, or
okay, so there's multiple Chuckies out there, so we're just going to focus on one of them, and we're going to leave all the other shit for whenever we get another movie.
Just have them play different people. Just, the actors are still working. Just give them different roles. What the fuck? Absolutely. All right, I'm going to try to run through some of these super chats really quick. Bruce Brown, do you think we'll ever get a third movie to the collection? It's coming. The studio, like, there was that report that the studio kind of abandoned it. Like, they haven't been in contact with the people that were shooting the little bit that they shot since COVID, but I don't think that that's going to go on forever. I mean, they've already put money into it. They've already hired people. I'm not in the business, but I don't think that they're just going to be like, okay, that never happened, and then just kind of forget about it. Yeah, somebody will pick it up because they have footage, like you said. Yeah, not very much, but enough to keep going. Sean Sheridan for CP's Vanilla Coke Fund. Expectations for Scream 5. One thing I would love, which was an idea for Scream 3, is bringing Stu back as a killer. My expectation for Scream 5, I don't know, because the fact that it's a new set of directors, I don't think they're going to kill any of the fan favorite characters, but I think they need to. I think that they'll get dark fate treatment if they do. If they kill any of the characters, the fans are going to do what fans do, and they're going to piss and moan and bitch and complain, and there's going to be reports coming out 2 weeks before the fucking movie, and everybody's going to boycott it online, and anybody that likes it's going to get shit in the comment section. So I don't know what to expect. Michael Swift, have you seen an official trailer for Dexter Season 9? We're going to get into that. CG is going to kill horror movies. There will never be another Savini. That's why I stand by movies like Day of the Dead and The Thing. I think there's always going to be somebody that's going to be championing practical effects and horror. They might not be the iconic level of Savini, but horror fans champion that all the time. That's not going away. Chucky looks like a typical Sci-Fi Channel quality series with C-level acting, except for Brad Dourif, who's always great. I don't feel good about it. I don't know if you got enough from the trailer to be able to say that, but I respect your opinion. Will we get a Child's Play remake sequel? If we haven't heard anything by now, I don't know if they're just waiting for the TV series to see if that reignites some excitement or what, but I'm surprised we haven't heard anything yet, because it was successful. It didn't blow the lid off or anything like that, but I think it's either the second or it made money. So I don't know. Looking grim. We got a couple more. Where the fuck was I at? There we go. Okay, so we got Nathan. Don Mancini is a lot like Rob Zombie in the sense that they both make the movies they want to make, don't care if you don't like it, which I respect. But then you should also respect me if I say I really don't like what you did and you're losing me as a fan. Yeah, and I have the right to not pay for your shit and If I do watch it, say it sucked.
Yeah. Mike Vanderlip. Hey guys, what do you think will be the better movie, Malignant, Halloween Kills, or Don't Breathe 2? Glad to see this show back. If I'm to guess right now, I'm going to assume I'm going to like Don't Breathe 2 the most. But then again, that's an absolute guess. I have no idea.
It's kind of cheating asking me that question, but
if we assume that they're all, like, if I gave them all the same numeric score, like if I liked them all on the same level, Don't Breathe 2 is the type of movie that I would watch more often. I like that revenge action thriller kind of thing. That's my absolute not guilty at all pleasure. I mean, Nobody is my favorite movie of the year, for Christ's sake. So if they're all on the same even keel, I think Don't Breathe 2 will be the one that I'll walk away holding in a little higher regard.
Halloween Kills is going to be pretty hard to beat as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. We'll get into that very soon. Lil Mayo. Hey, Cody, here's a theory for you. What if the criminal who killed Billy's parents in Silent Night, Deadly Night was actually Charles Lee Ray? Interesting. Sounds like a fan film idea that we'll see in a year and a half. Junior Manual, best Chucky I've seen lately is the Play 1 movie. What? I don't get the joke, buddy. Anyway, thank you guys for the super chats. So moving on from Chucky, we got the big one. The big boy. We got Halloween Kills coming out October 15th. This is, for certain, most people in the horror community's most anticipated movie by a landslide. Movie's got a lot riding on it for a lot of different reasons. I know you have to tiptoe around this subject for various reasons, so I'll let you kind of steer yourself. But as far as Halloween Kills,
there's footage out there. I could talk about the footage.
Yeah, the closer that we're getting to it, the more excited, the more anticipated that I am getting for it. But I'm still keeping my expectations very, very, very in check, because my expectations certainly added into a lot of my disappointment with the previous one. So now that I kind of know what to expect to a certain degree, now that I've seen the footage, now that I've heard you say certain things about it, my prediction is I'm going to like this movie more. How much more? I don't know. And what I fear is going to happen, because after seeing the trailer, the popular thing that all of like the Halloween purists are saying is like, that's not Michael, that's Jason, that's Friday the 13th shit.
That's why I like it.
So what's probably so what's probably going to happen is that I'm going to walk out of this movie, I'm going to be like, guys, it's fucking awesome. And all the Halloween fans that shit on me for not loving Halloween 2018 are going to be like, of course you fucking like this one, you douchebag, this one sucks. And I'm not going to be able to win. So that's probably what's gonna happen. I'm gonna give it a fucking 4.5, and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck is this shit?" So I don't know. It's gonna be entertaining regardless. Halloween Kills is gonna be one hell of a weekend when that movie comes out on my channel. But yeah, it looks like it's just like in the title, a lot of kills. Looks like it's gonna be gore heavy, carnage heavy. Story wise, I honestly don't really give a shit. I mean, it's going back to the hospital. I can see that. It's going to be people hunting Michael down. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's going to offer a single thing story wise that we have not seen before in this franchise. Okay. Well, I think that means I could be wrong. It could be adjusted. And the newest bit of news that we have with this is that, originally it was said that Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and then finally Halloween Ends, which is going to be next year, was all going to take place on the same night. Well, they just came out a couple of days ago and said that during COVID, they've kind of reworked some of their ideas. They've, changed the script a little bit. They've moved some pieces around, and now there's going to be a few years gap between where Halloween Kills ends and where Halloween Ends picks up. So I don't know how I feel about that, because I really liked the whole idea of 3 movies all taking place on one night. I think that's a really cool little trilogy tight idea. I don't know how the movie ends, so I don't know if the way that they end Halloween Kills, and please don't elaborate, but I don't know if the way that the movie ends, that they've already shot with the idea that all of them take place in the same night, I don't know if that ending is going to make sense with a movie that now all of a sudden has to be picked up 4 years later, 3 years later. Maybe they're going to spend the first 5-10 minutes of Halloween Ends wrapping up something, a little tail end piece of where this movie ends, and then flash forwarding. I don't know, but I'm morbidly curious where the fandom is going to end on this movie, because if they do all the same things as Halloween, but it's a fuckload of kills and the Halloween fans don't like that, I'm going to be extremely confused. Because we all love the original idea of Michael, the silent stalker, the one that's half supernatural, that moves with the wind. But that wasn't even the guy we got on Halloween 2018. So if that's going to be a problem now, why wasn't that a problem 2 years ago? 3 years ago now, sorry. But nonetheless, CP, what thoughts do you have on Halloween kills that you would like to share?
I too share your excitement for the idea of having 3 take place in one night. And as you can tell from the trailer, Kills takes place directly after 2018. And I really like it when you can binge movies and they flow together. And that is certainly something that could be said for 2018. I mean, and there's Easter eggs there where there's characters that don't have speaking roles in 2018 that you're like, oh, wait a minute. I remember that person. That was, you know, you have to be eagle-eyed about it, but
It rewards a rewatch.
yes, absolutely. But as far as the ending is concerned, that is confusing. I'm hoping that they shot a new one, because
Which is possible.
yeah, possible. Sure. That'll be a little weird.
You know, it's funny. In the spirit of this franchise consistently not learning its lessons and repeating history, it sounds a lot like Halloween 4 and 5 to me, to where Halloween 4 came out, rebooted everything, everybody's excited. Halloween 5 takes place the second Halloween 4 ends. And although I hope we're not talking about Halloween 5 level quality here. And then all of a sudden 6 is just like this hodgepodge that takes place years later that there's no through line. So, yeah, hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah.
But,
well, I mean, you see it in the trailer. The entire town is involved in it. So what, they take a break? They just say, never mind, let him go.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, because I know it's going to be difficult for you to react if I'm dead on the money or if I'm way off. But, like, I think it's pretty obvious for movie fans that, being that this is that middle chapter in this Halloween sandwich, that this is probably going to end on a moment that's a cliffhanger. It's going to end on something where it's like, oh, fuck, what happens? And then we got to get the third one. So that is going to be strange if you have a cliffhanger and then you start the next movie and it's just like, oh, he's just back in the sanitarium now, and now he's got to break back out, or, you know, however they're going to make it make sense, or he escaped and now he's just walking the earth for 4 years, and I don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis or whoever the fuck survives at the end of this movie has been searching for him, and Halloween Ends is when they finally get a read on him, or who the fuck knows. But yeah, I don't know. When they announced that, I thought that was a little bit strange. I'm like, oh, you had an idea, you've been executing it. Don't change shit post production. That's a little strange.
Yeah.
But we'll see. You know, who the fuck knows? Maybe we'll come out and the movie will be a huge hit, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about 3 years later? And they'll change their mind again. Who the hell knows?
Yeah, it's my understanding that there's a mirrored shot to open and close the movie that really will leave you hanging if they go ahead and make it take place years later.
Oh, you know what? This comment makes sense now. I just scrolled past it. Ready Player One. That moment that Chucky's in it.
Oh, yeah.
There
That
we go.
was cute.
There we go. Yes, it was. My son was actually just watching that a couple of days ago, and that's always one of my favorite parts of the movie. So I'm just sitting there watching it. Whenever he's like, "Here, take this," I'm like, "Here it is." Oh man! All right, Nas Goat. Hidden Figures inspired me to write a spec script. It's about a guy hiding black escaped cons in his house. Any ideas for the title? Hidden something. Hidden homies. I don't know. I don't
know what Hidden Figures is.
Hidden Figures was the movie about the women that were the first black women in NASA or something like that. I never saw it, but it has to do with space travel or rockets.
Okay.
Or I might be fucking it up completely, but so a guy hiding black escape cons in his house. So that sounds like Underground Railroad. I would play off the Underground Railroad.
Yeah, watch Inglourious Bastards, because watch some stuff from Germany, World War II, how they hid Jewish people. There's lots of content that you can kind of homage and mirror off of.
Mike, if A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday were to start up again, fingers crossed, what two directors would you like to see take over? You can give either one of them to Fede Alvarez. I wouldn't mind seeing Jordan Peele do A Nightmare on Elm Street. Rob Zombie's Friday the 13th. The origins of Pamela. Come here, you little fucking idiot. What do you think?
Well, Vince DeSanti. For Friday.
Yeah, of course.
If not Vince, then who directed Halloween Kills again?
David Gordon Green.
Yeah, David Gordon Green is probably the person I'd hand Friday the 13th to.
It's a direct sequel to the first one. And then I have 3 more coming after that if it's good. But yeah, I don't know. You need somebody cerebral for A Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't want to just see a generic slasher version of A Nightmare on Elm Street. I like to see somebody that has some very cerebral ideas like Wes Craven did. So I'm thinking somebody along the lines of Jordan Peele, somebody that can get a little bit more heady about it, while still delivering some horror. I'd like to see Jordan Peele go full rated R and do like a gore filled movie, because he's been very psychological thus far and not so much about gore or slashing or anything like that. So any of those. What needs to happen in Halloween Kills in your opinion? A lot of people need to die, including some main characters. So we have coming up after that.
You're gonna be happy.
Oh yeah. Last Night in Soho. I believe this is your most anticipated movie, or at least most anticipated horror the rest of the year, correct?
Anticipated, yes. Edgar Wright has not failed yet, as far as I'm concerned.
See, I'm in the minority. I absolutely loved Baby Driver, so I'm excited to see what he does next. I promise you, I have given Shaun of the Dead 3 or 4 tries, and I just don't get into it. There's something about British humor that's just so different. It's such a dry humor that it just doesn't land for me. I liked Hot Fuzz a lot more.
That's
interesting. I've only seen that once. I need to watch that again. Maybe it was because it was a slasher aspect to it with a little bit of there was something unique about it that I liked.
They're taking the piss out of action movies too.
Yes. So I think that's me. It's like Last Action Hero style with slasher stuff, and it's like, okay, I'm rolling with you here. Shaun of the Dead, I've watched and I'm like, it's one of those movies that literally everybody adores, where I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why? This is a movie that's supposed to be like in your top 10. You know what I mean? It's just one of those movies where you're like, fuck, do I even need to say that I don't like this? I should just keep that quiet. I don't hate it, but it's just, I watch it and I'm like, okay. Same with At World's End. I'm like, okay, interesting enough.
Yeah, At World's End is probably my least favorite from him.
Scott Pilgrim. Okay, interesting, a little weird.
Trippy.
I feel like it's a movie that it kind of repeats the same shtick over and over and over and over again with the evil exes or whatever. So it's got some fun moments, but up until Baby Driver, I more or less could take or leave his style. I appreciate how unique he is,
Yeah.
But Baby Driver, I saw it and I was just like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. So
visually, he's just so far ahead of people.
yeah.
Like you brought up the X's, and you watch stuff like Scott Pilgrim multiple times, and he gives you hints. Like there's X's on the walls and stuff, the right number of X's when one's coming, and like the amount of planning he must do, and in Baby Driver, the lyrics to the song that's being played. You have to the choreography to time that, where the words on the buildings are in sync with his walking, in sync with the music. That's some heady shit. That's time consuming.
Yeah, that's on another level. It's not just like I mean, you could have Baby Driver made by a totally different director and it would be just kind of a run of the mill action thriller, and it would still be pretty awesome with that story, but his style definitely brings a whole other world to it, a whole other layer to it. So I'm definitely excited, and I know that with Last Night in Soho, you can kind of enlighten me on the story, but I know it's obviously a horror movie. We're talking about horror, but it's not going to be horror comedy from what I can tell. It's more straightforward horror movie, correct?
I think it's apparently it is his homage to Argento, or his homage to Suspiria.
I could get that from some of the stills that I was seeing. They were doing like a giallo thing.
Yeah, and a girl travels back and forth between, I guess, the present day and a couple of decades back, where a lounge singer is beautiful and popular, and I don't know. There's something evil about that. So yeah,
that's another movie that I probably will walk into blind, because it sounds like something that he seems like the type of filmmaker that would have a close grip on the trailer, like don't give away shit, like kind of like Nolan. But at the same time, I'm so gun shy about trailers nowadays. I'm just like, okay, you got, like, as soon as you have enough to get me in the seat, I'm like, I don't want to see anymore. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm sold.
I did watch the trailer, and I'm like, I still don't know what I mean. Take my money, but I still don't know exactly what's going on.
Okay, well that's cool. All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, I am on team Edgar Wright now. I need to rewatch the Cornetto trilogy. I need to just sit down and watch all three of them, or maybe even review them and kind of talk through my points on it. But I've always had a rocky relationship with Edgar Wright, just because it seems like it's almost dangerous to say that you don't adore certain movies of his, where I'm just like, okay, moving on. Oh, Lord. All right, so we got, let's see, at least one or two super chats I saw. Terrell, how bad was Space Jam 2 in your guys' opinion? Haven't watched it.
Stopped after 15 minutes.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing with Space Jam. You could never accuse the first one of being a good movie. It was just this crazy little novelty thing that happened back in the 90s. Michael Jordan was a superstar. Looney Tunes were still the shit. So we got this movie. Can I watch the original and have fun with it off nostalgia? Yes, because I did. I watched it with my kids 2 or 3 months ago. But to me, I was never going to be the audience for a new updated Space Jam 2, even if it was good. I was never going to be the target for that. I'm not a LeBron James fan. Not that I hate the guy, but I don't watch basketball. To me, he doesn't, from what I can tell, doesn't have that pop culture, he doesn't have that it factor that Michael Jordan had. Like, Michael Jordan was just like this star. LeBron, all I see from him is a bunch of memes and everything of him playing like he's hurt. So I don't know anything about the guy's stats. He might blow Jordan's stats away. Who the fuck knows? But I'm not a LeBron James fan.
He's won more than Jordan has.
Yeah. So I'm not a LeBron James fan. The Looney Tunes, as much as I love them, are all but irrelevant nowadays. So bringing that back, and from what I've heard, it's just it's WB jerking themselves off the whole movie with just like, look at this, look at this, look at this. It's their whole library of Harry Potter and all this other shit. So it wasn't going to be for me.
They didn't give Jordan that much to do in the original Space Jam.
It was more about the Looney Tunes. He was
right.
just that extra factor to break the fourth wall.
Yeah, the opening 15 minutes is LeBron James and his family, and how he wants his kid to be a basketball player, but his kid wants to design video games, and I was just like, this guy is not an actor, and we're seeing way too much of this guy acting. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I'm all set. I'm just gonna go shit instead.
Alberto, are you familiar with John Cena? I mean, who isn't? What do you think? Yeah. What do you think of him as a movie actor? He's not terrible, but I don't like him as a movie actor. He predominantly has been in comedies thus far. I don't think he's all that funny. Like, I didn't think that Blockers was a very good movie at all. He's one of those guys that he's funny if he shows up for like 2 minutes and he's just a little cameo, says something funny. Like, he was in, was it that movie Sisters, where he shows up as like the drug dealer at the party or something? He was funny in that little moment. He's not a guy that I really, at least as of now, he could prove me wrong. He's not a guy that I ever see being like a leading man. He's not The Rock, and he's not even Batista. He just doesn't have it. Like
he's got that cute line in the Suicide Squad trailer.
Yeah, I mean, he's already been given his own HBO show too, so we're gonna see a lot of him in that character. That premieres in like January or something like that. So we're gonna see more of him. We'll see how he does in Suicide Squad. I didn't think he was good at all in Fast 9, but very little in Fast 9 was good, so it wasn't like it was his fault. But yeah, as far as wrestler turned actors, he is not one that has impressed me thus far. All right. Moving on from last night in Soho to the movie that I know probably the least about, and that is Antlers. In theaters 2020. Oops. So this is a movie that was supposed to come out like in April of last year and has been delayed numerous times. It seems like a movie that would be a obvious VOD, so I don't know what about this keeps pushing to a theatrical release. But essentially you have Kerry Russell and Jesse Plemons, where she's a teacher and he's like the sheriff, and they're worried about this kid in her class that's supposed to be hiding a monster. Or something like that. I have not watched the trailer. All I did was read a plot synopsis. So I've heard a lot of people mentioning this movie. Like when I did my top 10 of the year, like most anticipated for the rest of the year a couple of weeks ago, I saw Antlers mentioned once or twice. Like, where's that at? So it sounds interesting. I really like Kerry Russell, especially after she did The Americans. Jesse Plemons has been good in pretty much everything I've seen him in, and it sounds interesting, but I just don't know. It sounds a bit A24-ish. So I don't know if that means it's going to be really minimalistic, it comes at night type movie where you don't really see a whole lot and it's all metaphorical and all that shit, or if it's going to be legit monster movie or not. Those of you that have seen the trailer can enlighten me on that, but that's the movie that I know the least about on this list. I assume you concur.
Likewise, yeah. When I saw A Quiet Place 2, I was like, well, that wasn't worth the 2-year wait or however long wait we had, which is I know I'm in the minority, because I mean they released it to critics. And I was like, all right, if they're pulling back, that something has to be up with it. But since they've been pushing back all these higher end properties as far as horror is concerned, I'm kind of thankful for it, because like I saw a movie called Censor a couple of weeks ago, which I did a review for on my channel.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I actually reviewed a movie.
Hell just dropped a couple degrees.
Yeah, and I had a really good time with it. Oxygen, which was a Netflix movie, really had a good time with it. Well, Fear Street, those are Netflix movies.
Looks like we're going to have time. We'll get into a lot of those.
Yeah.
We're only an hour in and we only got a few more. So.
Yeah,
But
I don't know much, but you know when you delay stuff like that much, you better come strong.
yes, agreed. Now coming on to the other big star that had its trailer yesterday
Hi, Brian.
that I'm fucking pumped. You son of a bitch. Couldn't make it, huh, Brian?
Competing ass shithead.
Yeah, exactly. Dexter, New Blood, which has been announced to be coming out. I think it said November 7th. So now we have a date and the title of Dexter, New Blood. So Dexter, for those that are unfamiliar, was a TV show on Showtime that ran for 8 seasons. It is notorious for having one of the most hated season finales and most hated final seasons of any show ever. And they are bringing it back to right their wrongs, hopefully. So I've always been a huge fan of Dexter. Dexter, honestly, was like the first show that I was just addicted to, just straight addicted to. I think it was 2009. I had moved back home from college, and I was working at a arcade skating rink or whatever, and I had heard rumblings about Dexter here and there, and just randomly one night I was like, I'm going to download this fucking thing, back when I used to download shit. So I downloaded the first episode, watched the first episode, immediately went on Amazon and bought all 3 seasons that were available. At the time, it was only the first 3, and I was an absolute addict of this show. Like, as soon as I got home, I showered, I was watching Dexter until I was too tired to keep watching. Go to work, come home, keep going. And so I adored this show all the way through. Season 6 was the only season before the final season that I thought was lackluster, but it was still a pretty decent season. Like, it's better than most show seasons. It just has a lot of writing issues in that one, but I thought they really brought their A game back in 7. I'm kind of in the minority on that for some reason. A lot of people don't like 7 either, but for the most part, I thought it was a very a brilliant show for 4 seasons and a very solid show for 3 more seasons. And I fucking despised that last season. Everything about it, every little detail, every little reveal, every direction they took it in. I mean, the villain, the side characters, the lack of focus on any of the side characters that we've known and loved for 7 years, like the way that they decided to end certain characters, including Dexter, it just felt like it just went totally off the rails. It was just like, did anybody that genuinely cared about this show work on this fucking season? And I know it has its defenders. You know, Lindsay Mother Mayhem really likes season 8, or at least doesn't hate it. And I've heard a couple of the people say that, you know, they're okay with the ending, but clearly enough people hated it that they felt the need to come back. And we've got the showrunner that did the first 4 seasons is the showrunner of this reboot. I believe it's going to be a 10 episodes, so 2 episodes shorter than normal, a 10 episode little limited series, which to me means if it succeeds, you'll get more. And we know that he's living in a different setting. He's not in Miami. He's in like a snowy state. I don't know what state, but we've got he's living under a false name. Yeah, he's north somewhere. He's living under a false name. And Clancy Brown, who I love, is going to be playing the season's villain. And we got to see him for a snippet in the trailer. I don't know if he's like the sheriff or the mayor or something like that, but everything in this trailer that we got yesterday, if it wasn't so late, and if I didn't have so many goddamn frustrations with technology when I was trying to upload my Chucky trailer reaction yesterday, my camera was just said, fuck you, you're not recording anything today. I would have done a trailer reaction to this because Dexter New Blood, that trailer we got yesterday, was just fucking awesome without showing anything. All it showed was him in this town trying to just kind of stay on the straight and narrow, and every single scene was just him kind of seeing a knife or seeing something, like something's just drawing that dark passenger back out. And without even knowing anything else about the season story-wise, you know, what gets him back in. Obviously, he's going to start killing again, or something's going to draw him back in. I'm so fucking pumped. I'm so excited, and I have all the faith in the world that we're going to watch this, and it's just going to be like, he's back.
I hope we get the show that you're excited for. I really do. There's an
Good night,
event.
Brian.
Good night, Brian. There is an event that happens at the end of season 4, and I feel like the show died with that event. And
So you didn't like any season after 4?
I told myself I did. Season 5 I thought was, the least good season of the first 5. Season 6 I thought was okay, a little bit better than 5. And 7, when somebody that's when somebody finds out something, right? 7.
Season 6 is with Colin Hanks, where he's like the apocalypse killer or whatever,
Yeah.
and the very last shot of season 6 is when somebody finds something out. Season 7 is them dealing with it. That's when you get. That's
I didn't
when you
like
get.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, the alcohol and it was a little odd.
That was season 8, where she turns into alcohol and all that
what
shit.
I blended 7 and 8, I think.
Season 7 is where. Okay, so spoilers for Dexter. Oh, here we go. Get this fucking Trump dickwad. It's like the same fucking guy. Like every video now, I'll get like 7 different accounts. Block user.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, you have spoilers for Dexter. If you guys don't want to know anything about Dexter, if you haven't watched it, just mute me for a moment until I wave like this.
I would assume you would need to. This information would be known if you're going to start watching.
Correct. I mean,
New Blood anyway. But
yeah, this is like a 10-year-old season, something like that, maybe even more. So season 7 is after Deb has found out that Dexter is a killer, and that's where she's putting all the pieces together and figures out that he's the Bay Harbor Butcher by the end of the first episode, because he just tells her he lost his mind and killed that guy in like a fit of rage, and by the end of the first episode, she puts it all together that he's been the one killing people this whole time, and she's been hunting him without knowing that she was hunting him. So season 7 is her kind of slowly working into agreeing with him and almost helping him kill people that she can't get. And then you have the guy from Kill the Irishman, the guy that played the Punisher in the 3rd movie. I can't remember his fucking name, but he's a big ass Russian dude who's hunting him down the whole season 2. LaGuerta figures out that the Bay Harbor Butcher might be alive, and by the end of the season they have to shoot LaGuerta. So that was 7. That's 7.
I'm gonna have to rewatch 7. It's the only season. It's the only series I have that I don't have. I'm a bit of a completionist, but I don't have season 8 of Dexter. I'm gonna have to rewatch 7 and because. After everything happened and I sat down and thought about it, I was like, "Wow, that was garbage." And then I just thought further and further, and I was like, "No, everything that was garbage. That was garbage. That was garbage." And
season 1 through 4 to me are like prime Dexter. That's like, and I love all 4 seasons. So I think that's the best the show ever got. Season 5 was just not quite as good, but I still thought it was very good. The only problem I had with season 5 is that the way that it ended felt like a cop-out. It felt like it wrapped itself up in a nice little bow, and it really shouldn't have. I feel like the ending of season 6 with Deb should have been the ending of season 5. And season 5 teased that the whole way along, so it just kind of felt like they just didn't know when. It didn't have the Breaking Bad thing where they had a finite story, they knew exactly where they were going, and we're ending it on top. It felt like they're just going to keep going as long as the ratings were there. So and I liked season 5 quite a bit. Didn't like season 6 nearly as much. Really liked season 7. Like that, to me, that's the best season after season 4, and then season 8 was just one of the worst seasons I've ever seen.
Season 8 feels like
Ray Stevenson. Thank you, Brandon Sparks.
Season 8 feels like a teenager found 1/4 of the script pages and decided to wing it the rest of the way, and that's what we got. We got some kid winging it with some ideas.
Yeah, exactly. So it just... I have not ever rewatched season 8. It's the only season of the show that I've never revisited. I'm getting my Dexter reviews back on track, so I've already filmed season 4. I just got to finish up the intro and edit it together, but we'll be doing those about one a month up until the release of this new season. So a nice little through line into that. So I don't know what my rewatch is going to say. Maybe I'll appreciate certain things a little bit better. Maybe I won't dislike it quite as much. We'll see. But basically every single thing about season 8, every single idea, everything, I just fucking hate it all the way through. So
the finale is just like a middle finger.
Exactly. So I mean, at the core of it, like him having to go into exile, I appreciate that. But the way that they got there was just fuck you. So I've been waiting for years. I've known in my heart, I'm like, they're not going to let this character end that way. There's no fucking way. Like there was no word whatsoever for a long time. But I just knew at some point, I'm like, they've got to come back to this at some point. Like maybe they're writing, maybe they're waiting for Michael C. Hall to be ready. Maybe they're waiting for Showtime to be ready. I don't know, but I knew at some point with the way that fans just despise that ending that they had to come back and get this thing back on track. And it was funny enough, it was right whenever me and Lindsay dropped our season 1 reviews, and we were just kind of randomly like, hey, let's review Dexter. We talked about it for a while. Like within a week, they announced it just out of nowhere that the revival was coming. And we were like, holy shit, like we willed it to happen. So I've been very excited. All the people involved, being that it's a showrunner of season 4, the fact that I like the fact that it's getting away from Miami. It's not going to go back and have all the same characters. And to me, they've done that to death. So him being in a totally different setting, totally different characters, totally different story. And they've announced that, Jennifer Carpenter is going to be coming back. Obviously it's going to be something like Harry.
Makes me nervous.
That's the only thing that makes sense to me. So it's going to be something like Harry. I mean, because he's seen multiple characters inside of his head throughout the series. He's seen his brother and everything like that after he killed him. And then the Trinity Killer. So we're going to get John Lithgow at some point, probably the same exact way, if not some kind of a flashback. So everything I know about this, I'm excited as shit for. And, just like Chucky, I'm probably going to review every single episode of this revival too. So
I hope it meets your excitement, because I'd like to be pleased with it. I'm really skeptical.
Yeah. Nasco, this place got lame. I can't even send super chats. What happened? It should still let you send super chats. I don't know. It must be an issue. I would refresh.
There's one right there.
Yeah, there's two. Diamond Dog's probably thoughts on the Asian horror film The Wailing. Never seen it.
Korean horror film. Long. This is what I'll say. It's long. The ending certainly makes it worth it. I might cover that someday. Because I've been getting into a lot of Korean stuff, but I liked it, and the ending, it felt long for a while, but the ending felt like, you waited, and here's your reward.
There you go, Dale. So if you guys could remake the ending, how would you guys do it? The ending to what? Because we've talked about, I guess you're talking about Dexter. You'd have to redo the whole final season. I mean, I love the way that they end off season 7. I think that on paper, like certain directions they wanted to go to with like Deb having this crisis about what she had to do at the end of 7. I think that should have been the focus of the season, is just Deb versus Dexter. It should have been, by the end of it, it should have been Deb versus Dexter. All
Deb
this bullshit.
Turning Dexter in.
Yeah, turning him in, having to put him down, something like that. It should have been essentially what happened in season 2 to a certain extent should have happened in season 8. That's part of the reason why they kind of fucked themselves a little bit, because season 2, is, which is the very second season of the show, is where Miami finds out what Dexter's been doing, but they just don't know that it's Dexter. So that whole manhunt side of things
Oh, that's with Dokes, right? That Dokes
Yes,
season's
yes,
awesome.
it is. It's fucking awesome. So season 8, it should have been Deb versus Dexter by the end of it. That bullshit with, there's a doctor that we'd never known about for 7 fucking seasons that helped Harry with the code, even though it's been Harry's code this whole time. And it's totally fucking plausible that a guy that was a cop could come up with this code without a psychiatrist's help. That shit can get the fuck out of here. The brain surgeon shit can get the fuck out of here. Actually try even a fucking iota to give some sort of closure to all the Miami Metro characters, because they got dick on that last season. Don't bring back what's her face, the chick that poisons his girlfriend or whatever from season 7. You don't need her to come back. And just focus on Deb and Dexter. That's the main thing. And just the way that they did it was garbage. Anyway,
or something where Dexter ends up paying for it, but Deb carries the code on through Dexter's kid.
You can't be blocked from super chats, Nass. It's got to be something on your end. If you were blocked, you wouldn't be able to do any comments whatsoever. And I see all the report of everybody that hides or deletes anything. Nobody's done anything. So I'm not sure what the problem is, buddy.
Yeah, if you were blocked, we wouldn't be able to read that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure. So moving on from Dexter, I'm so excited for that. And I'm going to be crushed if it sucks. We have in November, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. This was the best picture I can get because there's nothing available for the fucking thing yet. But you and I are big fans of Resident Evil. For those of you guys that haven't seen it yet, we did a 2-episode little live stream where we were playing through Resident Evil 3. Had a lot of fun with that. We should do some more. And then I have some guilty pleasure with the Resident Evil movies that we already have. I like the second one the best. That one's the one that to me feels the most like the games. But I can have fun with the first one. I can have fun with 3 and 4. I don't like 5 at all. I don't like 6 at all. So I have some guilty pleasure with them. But I love the fact that all I know about this movie is the cast, which to me, I'm cool with the cast. The cast seems fine to me. I love the fact that they're literally just marketing this of we're taking the first game and the second game and making a movie. And that's all I know about it. And I'm a firm believer that you could do a movie, you could do a damn near a 10-episode series just based off the first game or the second game. I think you could do it even better that way. But I think that there is a cool way that you could have the events of the Spencer Mansion and the events of the RPD or Raccoon City happening concurrently and tell a pretty cool movie about it. Because they would have to be happening concurrently. You wouldn't be able to tell half the movie in Spencer and then all of a sudden we're spilled out into RPD, because if they're staying to the games, that's 2 totally different set of characters. So I'm assuming we're going to see Bravo Team or whatever they're called go into the Spencer Mansion. Stars. There you go. Stars going into the Spencer Mansion, and then by the end of the first act, we're going to start to see things spill out into Raccoon City, and we're going to see those events happening concurrently. So I'm very excited for that prospect. Just the fact that it seems like they're learning from what fans have said about Paul W.S. Anderson's movies, and they're saying, okay, so you guys want stuff directly from the games? Here you go.
I would, if we're only doing one movie, I would have just like the prologue to part 1. The helicopter goes down. They get into a fight. They're running from dogs. They run into their house. They're one guy short, and he's somewhere in the mansion, and they split up and go look for him. And the first act is just different people's perspectives on looking for this dude, and the crossover is they find him dead, chewed up, whatever the fuck. And the second act is them realizing that this mansion's got some fucked up shit going on. And for the third act, you have them realize that the city is all jacked up, and that's what they have to deal with. And then you can kind of let it linger, maybe, in case you want to go further with it.
So this is, I wanted to say James Wong was producing this, but I can't see his name anywhere on this, so maybe he dropped off. It's produced by Alexander Aja, so that's the guy, or Aja, however you say it. That's the guy. He's pretty well-known, B horror movie director. Now here's the spot that's either going to pull you one way or the other. So it's directed by a guy named Johannes Roberts. This is the guy that did The Strangers Pray at Night, which seems to be, a lot of people seem to like that movie quite a bit. It's got a pretty cool little style to it. I didn't think that it was the greatest thing in the world, but for a slasher movie, not bad. The other two movies that he's done is the 247 Meters Down movies, which I have not seen, but I've never really heard anything all that great about. So I don't... Oh, somebody's home. I don't know if that moves the meter for me at all. I thought for a second that this was the guy that was trying to get Metal Gear Solid off the ground, but it must have been another guy with a similar name. But nonetheless, this is a movie that could easily be absolutely terrible.
Oh, yeah.
See it. Of all the movies on this list, this is the one that I could easily see being the worst.
Yeah.
But it's the one that I'm crossing my fingers for the most, because I just love the Resident Evil series so much. I think it has so much lore and so much story that could just... It blows my mind how many video game adaptations we get that they try to just do their own thing. And it's just like, guys, the fucking story is literally like gift wrapped for you. It's right there. It doesn't matter if you're talking about Uncharted, if you're talking about Gears of War, if you're talking about Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid, a little bit more difficult. A lot of shit in that. But Resident Evil especially, it's just like the fucking first game. Just take that. It's right there. Yeah. Don't do anything weird with it. Don't try to change our expectations or surprise the fans. The fans just want to see the story that they know and love.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny. There's a bunch of stuff coming this year that we have this insecurity about. And there's this sick game where Halloween, I know how that turns out. And if that's the only thing that ends up turning out okay, I'm going to be like, what the fuck? Yeah. Of all the things.
Oh, that would be a crazy twist.
Yeah, that would be me luck.
Diamond Dog's Puppy, any interest in the Night House next month? I thought I saw that on this. Let me see. Hang on. The Night House. So the Night House is directed by The Ritual and VHS director. Well, I like The Ritual. The movie stars Rebecca Hall as a widow who starts to uncover her late husband's secrets following a series of hauntings at the lakeside home he built for her. Oh. Premiered at Sundance last year, and I guess it's coming in August. I don't know if that's...
Vaguely familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I don't remember seeing a trailer, and I must have missed it at Sundance. But we'll see it. It wasn't on my radar, obviously. It wasn't one of the ones that we really had much to say about. So
the good thing about horror is with the landscape the way it is, all these studios are catching up. Horror is just, even if they get released to theaters, you're getting them within about 2.5 weeks. So it's nice to know that, you really can rent a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And like I said, I found some gems.
I've enjoyed being able to see the smaller movies, the movies that I would probably skip in theaters, and by the time I got around to it, it'd be years later at best. So I've enjoyed I've enjoyed that. I'm not really. I'm hoping that it's not going to change the landscape of the whole theater process so much to where we're going to get all the blockbusters in-house day of. Like, I haven't really loved being able to do that. I definitely love going to see the theaters, but smaller films, I didn't end up liking it. But like, for example, all the little things, like the movie with Denzel Washington that came out earlier this year, I didn't really end up liking it, but that's a movie that, despite the fact that Denzel Washington's in it, and I probably would watch it anyway, that's the type of movie that I would not have seen in theaters and maybe have missed altogether. But I like being able to check that out at home and give it a fair shot. So, Alberto Gomez, we missed his super chat. My favorite movies are Speed 1994 and John Carpenter's Vampires. Do you think I chose a great top two? Definitely a unique top 2. I love both of those movies. They're not anywhere near my top, but yeah.
That's what makes our opinions so special.
Yes,
They're all different.
Yes, it is. Exactly. So that is all of the horror movies that are confirmed for 2021, but we do have 2 that are supposed to possibly come out in 2021 that we wanted to talk about, and they're pretty big ones. So we'll see if these actually see the light of day this year. First one, Leatherface, also known as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, as it has been officially titled. No release date whatsoever, no trailer. The only thing that I know about this is that you enlightened to me that Fede Alvarez wrote this, or at least had a hand in the writing.
Story by.
And it's doing the same thing that a lot of franchises are doing nowadays, and the same thing that this particular franchise has done at least twice so far. And that is going back to the beginning. And this is going to be a direct sequel to the original, and it's going to have Leatherface as an old man. So it's going to be, I guess, present day maybe. So that was in the 70s. So he's is in the 60s and the 70s, something like that. I don't know what decade.
I'm looking now. The script has gone through at least 2 different writers, because Rodo, I can't pronounce his name, story by Fede Alvarez, story by Chris Thomas Devlin, screenplay by. So
one person has an idea, then the other person tweaks it, and the other person writes
it. Tweaked, yeah. That scary.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I probably enjoy the Texas Chainsaw Massacre more than any of us on Autop Stream, and that's not saying much, because I don't love this franchise by any means. I don't give a fuck about seeing another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie ever again. Look, I respect the original. It has never been a movie that I could say I enjoyed, and it is never a movie that I really ever have the desire to watch unless I'm doing a binge, or I was doing a review series, or we did 31 on 31. It's just not really a rewatch type movie. I have a lot of guilty pleasure with the second movie, but I got to be in the mood for it. Don't give a fuck about 3. Really don't give a fuck about 4. Absolutely love the remake. The remake is the one that I will go and pick, and I will pick that up and rewatch it every couple of years. That's actually one of my favorite horror movies. I love the remake. The beginning, can take or leave it. Texas Chainsaw 3D, no thanks. Leatherface, I appreciated it more than probably everybody else on Autop Stream, just because I liked the whole... I like the creative aspect of the whodunit, even though it was kind of weird, because when you're doing a whodunit, they have to purposely make you think that the red herring is the guy that should obviously be Leatherface. So it doesn't quite work, but I appreciate the effort. But so that leaves one movie in this whole franchise that I genuinely love. And the problem with this franchise is that it like reboots its direction every fucking sequel. So you have the original movie that to this day, well, he's gone now, but all the way up to the end of his life, you had oh shit, what's the name? Toby Hooper. You had Toby Hooper swearing that was intended to be like a dark comedy. I don't think that lands at all. I've never heard of anybody watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre and laugh. But you get the second movie that was like, okay, well, this is a dark comedy, totally different direction than the first film. You get 3, which is just generic slasher. You get 4, which is just fucking batshit nuts. And story-wise, they might as well all be reboots. I mean, you could argue the first movie its own thing. The second one kind of reboots it to a degree. The third one kind of reboots it to a degree. The fourth one, same thing. Then you get the hard remake in 2000. And that and the beginning are really the only 2 concurrent movies that genuinely have ties to each other, that feel like one cohesive kind of story. Then you have Texas Chainsaw 3D, which reboots it, goes all the way back to the first film. Then you have Leatherface, which feels like its own thing. And now here we are again in 2021 talking about rebooting it yet again. We're going to go back to the beginning. We're going to tell Old Man Leatherface. To me, it's like, what do you have left to do with this franchise? What do you have left to do with this character that you haven't already done and really fucked up already? Like, it's what is left aside
If
from
they
just
open this with that, if they open this with that fucking title screen, I swear to God.
put your little hand in mine. But yeah, I just even the fact that Fede Alvarez came up with the story, what story could you possibly have left to tell? Like, what can you do with this franchise that they haven't already done and tried? They have approached this franchise 1,000 different ways from Sunday already and failed a vast majority of the time. So maybe I'll be surprised when it comes out. I highly doubt it, but to me, if I was to be given the job to reboot any slasher franchise, this is the one that I would want the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's bizarre that Fede wrote it and they still did work to it. Like, what? Oh, yeah. Okay. The guy who did Evil Dead, you're gonna you're gonna correct that?
Yeah, right, and that's guys. The only part of this that even gives me a sliver of hope is that the guy that totally reinvented Evil Dead and did it in a wildly different way while being true Evil Dead. That guy is the only reason why I have even a sliver of hope. But the fact that somebody has put their hands in the cookie jar so many times since he's left it kind of combats that. But yeah, honestly, I mean, I'll kick it over to the chat for a minute or two and see if anybody disagrees or has an idea. But just, I am genuinely dumbfounded with what you could possibly do to this franchise. I mean, aside from just visually, now Leatherface is old. Like, okay, cool, but is there anything else that's different? Like, is it just going to be old man Leatherface is in this house, people show up, and then now he's chasing people with a chainsaw? Like, is that it? Is there going to be more family members? Is this the Sawyers? Is this the Hewitts? Like I said, like if you told me, I'll give you $1 million if you can write me a new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, I would be like, fuck, I don't know.
Nathan just gave you $2 to predict exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. On August 18th, 1973. Again. Leatherface grandchildren.
Oh yeah, well that's the recurring theme of those movies is family. Yeah.
Mike Vanderlip, if you guys heard anything about Nope from Jordan Peele, I've only seen the poster. That's all anybody has seen. They dropped that randomly. So it looks a little Close Encounters of the Third Kind vibe, like maybe it's sci-fi, but nobody knows anything. Alberto again, Freddy's Dead or Halloween 5. I can watch 5 despite it being a rinse and repeat. I think little Daniel Harris saves it a bit for me if you had to pick. Well, Freddy's Dead's my least favorite movie of all time. So I guess you can guess what my pick would be.
Yeah, I'll take Halloween 5.
Yeah, begrudgingly. Technically, he was old in 3D, so nothing new as of yet. Yeah, exactly. It's just going to be visibly old. He's going to have white hair, I guess, or some shit. I don't fucking know. I actually liked Texas Chainsaw 3D despite the do your thing, because, I mean, Texas Chainsaw 3D you can have guilty pleasure with. I could see somebody saying that. But there's nothing about it that I think is genuine quality. Brian Lomax will argue differently.
Right.
But
I'm a Friday guy, and I know there's nothing to that series. So if somebody says that I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I can't wrap my head around it, but I can understand that somebody could. Yeah. It's just not my cup of coffee.
Yep. So of all the movies on this list, this is the one that I'm anticipating the least that we've talked about thus far. If it ends up being great, I will be genuinely shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is going to be another movie that's going to come out and it's going to disappear immediately. Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So this is the last movie that is supposed to come out this year. Whenever they did the little announcement that this movie was even being made, they said it was coming out in 2021. Just haven't heard anything since. So things might change. We have a very stacked, especially with horror, very stacked later half of the year. So I would not be surprised if either of these movies get pushed. But Jeepers Creepers Reborn. So we've had 3 Jeepers Creepers movies thus far, all of them written and directed by Victor Salva. For those that aren't up to date on the controversy surrounding Victor Salva, you can go enlighten yourself. I'm not really going to get into it, but we'll just say that a lot of people do not like the fact that he is making movies, making a profit, and there is a very strong opinionated side of horror that will not watch or support Jeepers Creepers as long as his name is tied to it.
Yeah, don't use certain words, you'll get demonetized.
Yes. So Jeepers Creepers Reborn is the first Jeepers Creepers movie that is completely out of the hands of Victor Salva. So I'm going to kind of go back through because it's been a while since I've read the little press release, but essentially it was purchased by Screen Media Films, and they're the ones that took over the production. He's not a part of the writing, a part of the directing. I assume he either is getting royalties from it or they bought the rights from it completely outright. They haven't really given details on that, but distribution rights, everything is all Screen Media, so it's their franchise now. Mm-hmm. So essentially, from what I remember, this is going to be taking place. Let's see. Jeepers Creepers Reborn unfolds as the Horror Hound Festival holds its first ever event in Louisiana, where it attracts hundreds of geeks, freaks, and die-hard horror fans. Among them is fanboy Chase and his girlfriend Lane, who begins to experience unexplained premonitions and disturbing visions associated with the town's past and the Creeper. As the festival arrives and the blood-soaked entertainment builds to a frenzy, Lane believes that something unearthly has been summoned. So, it sounds to me like they're going back to some of the elements of that first film with the premonitions, and we had the psychic chick. We had the chick in the second film that on the bus that was having premonitions that they never really give any explanation to.
Yeah.
So they're kind of taking some of the elements of the first couple of movies and doing this again. It sounds a little bit like, was it 2 or 3 years ago? It seemed like we had 2 or 3 different movies like Hellfest and all that. There was like horror carnival, horror festival, horror fair. I like that idea for a setting. And I like the fact that it at least sounds like they're doing something that's going to set up a new trilogy without trying to worry about all the bullshit that was going on in Jeepers Creepers 3. Because that movie, for all intents and purposes, I think you can just outright ignore.
I often forget it exists, actually.
I envy you. So I absolutely love the first Jeepers Creepers, regardless of the negative legacy that it has because of the director. First of all, at the time, nobody knew that. Not till the internet was really a big thing. Not even during the second movie, a lot of people even knew who the hell Victor Salva was. But with all of that removed, I can watch Jeepers Creepers, and that never enters my mind what the guy did or anything like that. Judging it purely as a movie, it's one of my favorite horror films of all time. I absolutely love the first movie. I love everything about it. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, monster movie of all time. Second movie, I have a lot of fun with, but it's a guilty pleasure. It's got a lot of weird tonal shifts. It's got a lot of weird stuff in there, especially if you know the details of Victor Salva. You're kind of like, what are you doing, dude? with some of the choices there. Action-wise, like the whole monster movie drive-in theater type B-movie flick, like where he's just terrorizing this bus in the middle of the street. Like, I like all of that. It's all of the character stuff that's very odd in that movie. 3 is an abomination as far as I'm concerned. There's like pretty much nothing about 3 that I enjoyed, aside from just Jonathan Breck is always good as the Creeper. Trying to do this, it takes place between the first and the second movie, and you remember that kid, the one that you've been following the whole movie? He's actually on the fucking bus, even though he's not a fucking character in the second movie. Wrap your head around that shit. It's a movie that I hated when I saw it. I was like, dude, this fucking franchise is dead. Like, if it wasn't already dead, being the fact that I think it took him like 7 or 8 years to get the third film off the ground because everybody was just blockading him. Places would not let him shoot there. He was probably denied by God knows how many studios or how many studio reps to get funding for the movie. Finally got it made, and even the theatrical release was like, yeah, you get one night, one night, and they released it on Sci-Fi Channel. So if it stayed in his hands, this thing would have died a quick death regardless. So as a fan of the first movie, I'm excited the fact that at least the franchise, the Creeper character and the story will continue on. Hopefully we'll get back on track with a good movie.
Yeah, they could redo the lore a bit too. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you paint yourself in a corner when you say every 23 years.
And he
And
did that intentionally. I remember watching behind the scenes, and he wrote that in so that nobody could do a sequel to his movie. But then he realized that you could just do more movies within that 23-day stretch. So,
mhm.
nonetheless, yes, there is certain timelines that you now have to follow. Because the second movie ended with 23 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, just redo that aspect so in case you need to make a sequel. It's going back to my issue with Child's Play. Just you know, you set your world up. You know, the rules were set. Just follow them. You know, just keep going by what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't be changing shit. It's
Yep.
why they
So
make fun of horror.
yeah. There's a lot of reasons they make fun of horror, and it seems almost like a lot of fans want it to stay that way. Where just
Yeah.
give me anything, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm really excited for this. I mean, obviously, I need to see more. Maybe I'll watch the first trailer and I'll be like, oof, maybe not. But from what I know now, I'm relieved that somebody else is going to be taking this over. Now, there's still going to be some people that, because he might be getting royalties or because he started the franchise, they're still not going to support it. And you know what? You're entitled to your own opinion. But I would say to respect those of us that just enjoy the story, enjoy the character, and are only here for that. Because that's certainly the only reason that I'm here, is because I love this character, and I think there's so much potential with Jeepers Creepers that has not been tapped in the past two movies for certain.
Mm.
So yes, I'm very excited, cautiously optimistic. We'll see if it comes out in 2021. And that is the last movie that we had to talk about for the upcoming films of 2021. So let me make sure I didn't miss any super chats really quick. We still got another 15 minutes or so. We'll try to roll through some of the movies that we've already seen in 2021. One super chat. Alberto, if Jeepers Creepers Reborn plot doesn't revolve around Gina Phillips and the creep, then I don't want it. We were expecting that in the third one. That was the fucked up thing that pissed me off about the third one. So for the longest time, the title for the third film was Jeepers Creepers Cathedral. And the plot synopsis that was being promoted as this movie that Victor Salva was trying to get made for years was that Gina Phillips, who is Trish from the first movie, was going to be teaming up with the father from the second movie to take down the creeper finally and learn about its origins and everything like that. That was the plot synopsis that he marketed and he pushed and he was sending out to fans for years. Then you finally get the fucking movie, and all it is a giant commercial for that movie, for the one that we actually were expecting. I mean, it ends the movie with her, you know, we're going to take him down, or whatever the fuck she was doing on her podcast. So I'm with you. I mean, I don't necessarily think that they're going to go that direction. It doesn't sound like they're going to, but that would have been an infinitely better movie just off plot synopsis alone than what he decided to do with the third film. What famous horror villain takes down the creeper?
Ooh.
I mean, I don't know until you find out whether or not it can actually be killed or not.
Godzilla.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So as far as movies that have already come out in 2021, I'm going to scroll back to January and we'll talk about the ones that we've seen. So I think the first one, the earliest one, was the Wrong Turn reboot, which we covered on a spoiler stream that was like bananas with the fucking super chats that episode. And I really liked that. You know, unless you've watched it again and changed your thoughts, I think you really liked it too. To me,
I did. I
really
did.
By a little margin, because I do have nostalgia for the original. To me, it's my favorite of the Wrong Turn franchise.
I agree.
I think it has a lot of creativity to it. I think that I appreciated all the new directions. I know there's a very loud group of people that thinks that it's far too removed from what Wrong Turn is supposed to be, but to me, it still hangs on to the heart and soul of what Wrong Turn is. you take a wrong turn and now you're in danger. Now you're dealing with a group of people that are separate from society. But instead of, butt fucking hillbilly cannibals, it's
you
wood,
need
woodsman
inbreds.
society.
That's what you need in your movie, really. You
Yeah.
need your villains to be inbred. So okay.
Yeah, so I thought it was a little rocky in the first 45 minutes or so with the dialogue and some of the characters, and I was actually like, oh my god, this is going to be terrible. But it makes a really huge turn about halfway through the movie, and I ended up really, really liking it. And I imagine the more that I watch it, the more that I'll like it. So I really dug Wrong Turn. I thought that was a really cool, for somebody that champions remakes going in wildly different directions, that's what I'm talking about. Wasn't a perfect movie, but if you're going to take something that's pre-established and you're going to say, I'm going to do that again, just like with Child's Play, to me, I prefer you to go in a very different direction. Don't just take the skeleton of what we already love and just do it with a newer movie, because every time you do that, we get like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. We get the Poltergeist remake. We get movies where it's just like, this is a soulless shell of a movie that we love.
Yeah, that ending was fucking classic as well.
Oh yeah. I like the way that it wrapped up, and it still leaves just enough to where you could see them following it up with a second movie. Let's see here. Willy's Wonderland, that came out in February. Did you ever get a chance to see that one?
No, I never really was a Five Nights at Freddy's guy either. So, from what I understand, it's that the movie, but Nicolas Cage doesn't have lines.
Yeah, he doesn't have a single line in the whole movie.
What the fuck?
Which, to me, you hire Nicolas Cage to be really over the top with his performance and his dialogue and stuff like that. To me, that's not a character, or that's not an actor that you hire for a silent role. That was one of the biggest things that bugged me about the movie. I was like, okay, this just doesn't work for me. This whole silent protagonist thing, that's not what I want when I think of Nicolas Cage in a zany horror film. I mean, some of the doll designs was kind of cool. Other than that, it wasn't really gory or anything like that. It didn't have anything that I really would have wanted from a movie like that. So I saw it and I was like, yeah, this is not for me whatsoever. We'll add that to the list of zany post-2000 genre flick Nicolas Cage movies that just aren't for me.
You know what hit me the other day? There's a couple of Nicolas Cage movies in the last 5-10 years that I actually quite enjoy. I can't say the same thing for Bruce Willis. They're both doing straight to DVD work.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis hasn't tried.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage has at least taken really bold, wild ideas and bold little chances. Yeah, Bruce Willis is just like, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah. I need to be sitting.
Yep. Sad but true. Old Bruce, come back to us. I did not see The Unholy. That was the movie with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I don't know if you saw it. Yeah. Let's see here. Scrolling. Army of the Dead. What did you think about Army of the Dead? Subtitle. Sigh.
It's 3 stars for me. Top 20 out of 44 movies.
Yeah, I don't remember what numeric rating, but it was between it was 3.5, somewhere in there for me too. Zack Snyder has a very cool visual style. I think the movie looks awesome. It felt very inspired by video games, and I liked that. A lot of the directions that it took with like the super zombies and even just the whole aesthetic of the movie kind of felt like Dying Light or one of those, modern zombie games, even a little bit of like Dead Rising. I liked some of the characters, but to me, like some of my favorite characters, the ones that I like the most are the ones that died the quickest.
Yeah.
We had joked about it beforehand. They got was it Army of Thieves coming out?
Yep.
Which is focused on my least favorite character of the whole movie, which is the really...
I didn't hate him. I'm okay with it.
I didn't hate him, but the whole shtick about him screaming like a little girl every time a zombie came out, they did it a little bit too much for me. So I didn't really care for his character too much. Batista, I like him, but I still feel like he's a little bit emotionless with his acting sometimes, and his character, I felt that way. The thing that pissed me off the most about the movie was I fucking hated his daughter. His daughter is like the classic horror movie trope where it's like this loudmouth, non-listening little asshole that fucks up the works and gets a whole bunch of people killed because they won't listen. And by the end of the movie, it's just like, are we supposed to be happy that this is the way things that came out? Like, I don't want to spoil the movie because it's still fairly new, but
yeah, a lot of people died because somebody wanted to go on an adventure.
Yeah, and the goal of her adventure doesn't even come through by the end of it, and there's like no response to it. She's like, "Oh, well, fuck, okay, I guess that's not happening," and so that really bothered me. Action-wise, gore-wise, it was fun. I mean, it was a fun movie. I would see more. There's going to be more in this universe. I'm not really excited for the Army of Thieves because I don't love that character, but
I am. I'm okay. Give it to me.
I had fun with it. So for Zack Snyder being able to do his own thing, it felt long. That was the other thing I'll say. It felt too long. Since he did Justice League, it seems like he's probably getting a little thing like, I will direct your movie. If I get final cut, then I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
didn't he? He wrote it too, didn't he?
Yeah, it's his movie.
That Netflix opening scene, I was like, all right, we get it. Yeah. Enough with the back and forth with the guys driving in the truck was like, fucking hell, just we know what's happening. Let's go. Yeah,
exactly. So I love Zack Snyder to death. I'm just worried that post Justice League, he's going to get a little bit. He's not going to be edited enough. You know what I mean? Because he got fucked so bad at WB, I feel like he's going to demand creative control and final cut, and I think his movies might suffer a little bit from not being tempered back a little bit. I think you could have taken 20 minutes out of this movie, and it'd be a little bit better. So, Spiral, the very same week, actually. So Spiral was interesting because there was a lot of build up for me on this channel because I had my Saw reviews had to be postponed and all this stuff. When I went to see Spiral, it basically was exactly what I thought it was going to be. It was one of the better directed movies of the franchise, for sure. I thought that it was an entertaining enough twist on the whole Saw formula and the story reasons why they went there. I appreciated that. It didn't feel too preachy. It just felt like, okay, here's a modern reason why somebody would do this. Okay, cool. Some of the traps were pretty gnarly. I liked that. Chris Rock, horribly miscast. And I know it was his idea. I know it was his baby to a certain extent. He's the one that got it made. But when I saw, with the exceptions of scenes where he's just being Chris Rock and just riffing like a stand-up comedian, he felt way out of place in this role.
Yeah.
And it felt like he was trying so hard to be brooding, to be exactly. He was the big standout to me where I from seeing the trailer, I was like, this is not a movie for Chris Rock to be leading. And by the end of it, I was like, yep, that's not a movie for Chris Rock to lead.
Yeah. When he's angry, he's screaming and he's over screaming and blah blah blah. Otherwise,
he's in this case, Kevin.
Yeah. And then when he's not, he's talking through his teeth, and you're like, what? Why are you mumbling? There's no middle. It's just fucking.
What about all those calls? That was just a distraction to get us out of the precinct. It was 0 or 10.
Yeah. And then if you just take like 3 seconds to think about things like, how did the wax, how did that get set up? Because you need a code to get in there.
Go ahead. I was letting you finish. I was just clicking it so I didn't
the second you think about things, like it all falls apart. Like the spirit of Saw is putting somebody in a trap so they have to think about the things that they've done. And this was more just, hey, here's neat ways to kill people.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's it was a movie that by the end of it, it was one of my favorite of the Saw movies. I thought it was a good spin-off, sequel, whatever you want to call it, but it's still...
You like it better than Jigsaw?
Yes. I'm not a fan of Jigsaw whatsoever. So this, to me, I think I had it at number 3 in my ranking. I think Saw 2 is my favorite. Saw 2 is the only one that I genuinely really like. Saw 1, there's elements to it that I like, but Cary Elwes
he's terrible.
For me.
He's terrible in that movie.
He's horrible. Every time I watch it, he just takes it down like a whole 2 fucking stars for me. So I think I had Saw 2 or Saw the original at number 2, mostly for just kind of legacy and for James Wan and all the stuff that he brings to it, and then Spiral was firm right there at 3, and all the other Saw movies I could take or leave. So
I mean, I would say middle of the series, but that's not
most of the series is stacked in the middle there.
Yeah, what, is that a compliment?
Yeah, you got Saw 2 and 1, you've got the final chapter, and then middle.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, so what do we got out of that? Quiet Place Part 2. I'm gonna let you start this one. Oh, actually, let's do this super chat. Alberto Gomez, I hope you review the Exorcist movies. You can skip 2. Actually, the original could have been a standalone, but the scissors jump scare was great. I have not seen either one of them in years, but I remember really liking the Exorcist 3. I think that's going to end up being a hidden gem and probably going to be pretty high on my ranking. I'm 31 and 31. The Exorcist, the original, I've always found overrated, but I have not seen it in a very long time. So we'll see what fresh eyes getting put on that is. And I've always heard the second one is abysmal. So we'll see.
Take everything Cody said and double it for me. I'd say same exactly. I haven't seen it in forever. I haven't seen 2. Heard it's terrible. I've seen 3 recently, enjoyed it. Emily has a hell of a review on it, so go check that out over at Emily's Adventures in Horrorland.
And yes, that scissors jump scare is I could agree with an argument that it's the greatest jump scare of all time.
Yeah.
What's genius about it is that it's the way that the camera's positioned, and it just shows this hospital hallway just going on like regular old shit, and just puts you into this false state of comfort where like you're expecting something, and then it goes so long with nothing happening that you kind of just settle back into your chair, and then bam, they just hit you with it. It's awesome. Jay Beanie, hey Dick and Prick, where is the Pinocchio's Revenge review? Great to have Dead Air back on. Book of Saw was awesome. I have never seen Pinocchio's Revenge. I know somebody sent me a picture. I actually have it right over there. Might have been you, Jay Beanie, but yeah, I've never seen it. I don't know.
Do you own it? Is that?
I don't think somebody sent it to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I got a lot of fucking Blu-rays and I'm not keeping a mental log of all that shit back there. So if somebody sent it to me in a fan mail and I'm supposed to review it, please enlighten me, because I forgot. Anyway, Quiet Place Part 2. CP.
I might have hyped it too much waiting.
It also is important to note that you watched it at home.
Yes. I watched it at home, and not in complete silence, which certainly affected the experience. And I thought it was okay, but I didn't have the same experience I did with 1. 1 I actually saw at a press screening where you could hear a pin drop. So I'd like to maybe when it. Oh, I think it is out. Whenever it comes out for home
on Paramount
media,
Plus.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it just on the headset and see how it is completely quiet, because I had a dog barking, a fucking lawnmower. It was just like...
Yeah, that's not the type of movie to watch if you can't get engrossed into it. I had a funny experience that's kind of the opposite of yours. So when I saw the first one in theaters, it wasn't like it was a bad theater or there was like obnoxious people, but it was certainly an average theater experience. People are crumbling around. There's plastic crinkling. There's popcorn chewing. So I was more annoyed with my first theater experience. I liked the movie, but it was a very difficult movie to really appreciate, because I was just, you could, like you said, you could hear a pin drop through most of the movie, and there was fucking pins dropping everywhere. It was just like, oh damn, good fucking chewing. But I actually liked the first movie more when I watched it at home on a second watch, and I grew to really love it. The second one, I would say, is pretty much just as good as the first one, if not slightly better. I need to give it more time before I say that, but I really enjoyed it. I loved how they continued the story right off the very moment the first one ends. And similar to what you were talking about with Halloween Kills, with like visual cues, they end it in a very similar way to the first one, where it feels like that's
Right.
going to be kind of the style going forward. We're going to end it on these moments. And what's interesting about the Quiet Place movies that I like is that very easily you could see a sequel, especially if it's by a studio, like kind of getting pushed for bigger, blockbuster, huge. And what I like about the story progression is that, the first movie is just about finding the weakness. And the whole victory of the movie is just, okay, we found the weakness, now the movie's over. And then the second one's about getting that weakness out to everybody. And so the whole movie is this struggle. And then the moment that they get the weakness out to everybody, the movie ends. And it's a very interesting, unique way where they're telling the story in like little tiny chapters. And as soon as the main goal of the movie is reached, that's it. There's no falling action. There's no epilogue. There's no trail out to the credits. It's just like, okay, victory, credits. So I think it's a really interesting little direction. And I think that John Krasinski, the fact that he didn't have to lead this movie acting, I think he directed it even better. Like the action sequences and some of the bigger sequences are a lot more dynamic, and even like smaller scenes where like in the prologue or whatever, Emily Blunt's driving backwards and you just see the alien kind of like slowly coming out of the bus in front of her. Like just cool little moments like that that I really enjoyed. And I loved Cillian Murphy. I loved his addition to this. I thought his character was interesting. The little journey that he goes on.
That shit at the dock was pretty intense.
Yeah, where he does that, and then that was a pretty cool, and I enjoyed that as well. I even loved seeing Jimon Hansu. I love that guy. I wish I'd see him in more movies. I can't remember exactly what my gripes were. I had a couple of gripes, but I'm blanking. There was a couple things that bugged me about it.
I just checked. It's right under Army of the Dead. So I was pretty okay with Army of the Dead. I didn't have a good watching experience, and I still think Quiet Place 2 is worthy of 3 stars. It's top 20 for me still, and that's with a bullshit experience.
Yeah. So I have a feeling maybe on rewatch you'll like it a little bit more if you have a better viewing experience. Coming up right after that is The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, which thus far is like the most mediocre movie I've seen all year, pretty much. Where it wasn't like outright terrible, it certainly wasn't great. I just watched it and like kind of immediately forgot and didn't care, to the point where I didn't even review it. I was like, I'm gonna spend a couple hours doing something else.
No, I didn't rank it. Holy shit. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, if I were to do a ranking of the Conjuring universe just by itself, and you will see that ranking later on this year, it would certainly be in the bottom 4, where you got The Nun was probably my least favorite, La Llorona, Annabelle, and The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It, kind of all right there. I don't think it's anywhere close to the quality of the first 2 films, like not even in the same ballpark. Not really a whole lot else to say about it, because we talked about it a little bit earlier. Just incredibly painfully generic.
Yeah, going through the motions, and then like I said before, spending a little too much time with Patrick Wilson's character.
Yeah. I did not see this one, so I'm going to cut over to you for the Forever Purge. I didn't even bother with it.
Exactly. For everything, there's. I saw a lot of people saying it's political, a lot of political messages. Every one of the Purge movies is political and has a message. That's not fair to say that, but there's nothing new, nothing exciting. All right, you're just taking advantage. Like Hollywood does this sometimes. Like, oh, okay, so the big thing is the border. Let's have the purge take place at the border. And then some things happen. And again, without spoiling it, after January 6th happened, it's like, yeah, no, I've seen that in real life. It doesn't really affect me as much anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this franchise to me has just kind of run out of steam. I mean,
Yep.
it was kind of on life support already. I appreciate the first movie because I really like Ethan Hawke a lot, and I like the premise of the first movie. The first movie by itself felt like kind of wasted potential, and then they realized that potential with Anarchy. To me, Anarchy is badass. That's the best of the franchise for sure. It's kind of like a Punisher movie within the Purge universe, with Frank Grillo kind of at the head of it. So I love Anarchy. What is it? Election Year. Election Year has a lot of the flavor of Anarchy, just not quite as good. So I like that one too. But it's not nearly as good as Anarchy. I did not like the first Purge at all. The whole thing about trying to make a drug dealer your protagonist, it didn't work for me whatsoever.
Yeah, he was John McClane towards the end.
Yeah, and there was no answers that they were giving us about how the Purge started that I cared about,
Right.
let alone couldn't predict myself. So yeah, I didn't even know this fucking movie was coming out until the day it was out. I was like, oh shit, a new Purge movie today. I think I'll stay home. So I didn't bother with it. I didn't hear a single person say anything short of it's the worst one.
You could do a Cloverfield thing with the Purge, like have a heist movie that takes place during the Purge. Because I mean, all crime is legal, right? So, shit. I know. So me right now, I'm in a bad situation financially. If there was a Purge this week, I'd take a shot at a bank or something. Fuck it. So, let's do that. Do a heist movie that takes place during the Purge, and there's so much more that they have to deal with rather than cops. There's no cops, but there's people trying to kill them and go after them. It all bets are off. Or
Yeah.
I don't know. You could have a serial killer movie during the Purge. Like you have this little. The rule is neat, and you could have a ticking clock element where somebody's being chased and they just need to make it to a certain time. And
there's a lot of things you could do within that universe, within that central concept of the Purge. I just feel like it's doing the Blumhouse thing where they're like, oh, that's a hit. Okay, let's do another one really quick. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's doing the Blumhouse thing where like one hits and they're like, oh, that hit. Oh, let's just do another one really quick. Oh, let's do another one really quick, quick. And it's just the second one felt like they learned their lesson with the first movie, and then Election Year just kind of felt like let's do that exact same thing again. And since then, they've just been desperately trying to find ideas to keep this going. And I didn't even see the TV series, but there was a TV series as well. So that brings us to Fear Street. So we had 3 movies, one every week, I believe. Throughout July. So we had Fear Street 1994, 1978, and 1666. I was lucky enough. I got to check out all of these about a week or so early. So I was kind of ahead of the hype, if you will, when I saw it. And I wasn't sure how it was going to be received. I was like, people are either going to really shit on this or they're going to really jump all over this. And it seems like the majority of people really liked it, really liked the concept, really liked the whole, the whole month of July. We got horror movies, 3 movies in 3 weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of taking a mini series, and instead of doing 6 episodes, we're just going to crunch it into 3 movies. And there was a select few people that really didn't like it that probably are critical of most slasher movies as well. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't rate any of them above like a 3.5. I think that was my highest. Might have been a 3.5, 3.75 at most. I thought that Fear Street 1994 was fun. It had a cool kind of a, not really Stranger Things, but like a cool nostalgic slasher movie, kids getting together vibe that didn't feel like it was necessarily ripping off anything. It kind of felt like a Goosebumps aesthetic to an adult slasher movie. I loved the soundtrack, even though I kind of get annoyed that seems like the laziest way to artificially create nostalgia is just we'll just have music from that era and that's all the effort we're going to put into it. It seems like 80s always gets all of the effort when it comes to recreating things. Like with Stranger Things, for example, it's always like we're going to bring back all the Dungeons and Dragons and all the Star Wars toys, and you're going to believe that this is the 80s. The 90s, which is the era that I grew up in, doesn't really get that same respect. So I was a little disappointed that watching this, there wasn't a lot of love given to the 90s. It just felt like we'll play some Rob Zombie, we'll play some, Iron Maiden, Fear the Dark, and hey, you're in the 90s. But it had a badass kill with the bread cutter. That was the best kill of the whole series.
Oh, yeah.
And it had enough intriguing little lore to it with the witch that I was really on board for it. 1978, which seems to be the fan favorite of the three thus far.
I'm so weird.
Yeah, that was my least favorite of the three.
Me too.
I don't know if it's because I have a lot of, I don't know if I want to say knowledge or love, because there's a lot of them I don't really care for, but I'm very familiar with camp slashers that just kind of felt like a surface level recreation of things, and it didn't really, for somebody walking around with an axe, it felt like the creativity of the kills, which is kind of the mainstay of a camp slasher, really wasn't there. It was just a guy going nuts and you just see people get chopped up. And I saw the whole twist with the character name reveal or whatever at the end coming, so I didn't really care for 1978 all that too much. And then 1666 to me was the best of the three by a narrow margin, because it wasn't relying on nostalgia. It was actually trying to tell a story. I liked, for the most part, the origins that they gave and the tone that they went for. It felt like a little bit more psychological, like with the church scene with everybody with their eyes. I thought that was really cool. And the way that they tailed back in the last 20-30 minutes and wrapped up everything in 1994, I thought that was cool enough, although it felt like they weren't following their own rules, and that bugged me a little bit. But overall, I liked it. I'd like to see more, maybe learn a few lessons with it, but I would be up for every year we get a little Fear Street trilogy.
Yeah, I'm 132, but I agree. I mean, one definitely appeared to be the most important, because you had a piece of one in all of them, and it was nice to have one first. Now, it makes sense now to have one be 94 be the first one, when the things that happened in 1666 happened. So it makes 94 feel a bit stronger.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Perhaps that makes 3 a better movie, but I felt like 3 was a nice add-on to 1, which even makes 1 more enjoyable for me. So I don't know how. Maybe 3 is better than 1. I don't know.
They're pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of difference between them, but yeah, those were the main thing here was that 2 to me I felt was significantly weaker than the other 2.
Yeah, and the dialogue felt so childish too. Like it something I don't know, something slipped off with the dialogue where it was like, oh, is this for Nickelodeon? Why is this so shitty?
Exactly. So yeah, I wasn't huge on the second one. Nasgoat, what's your favorite trilogy? Mine is the Godfather Blu-ray DVD pack, because you watch the first 2 and do coke off the third. I say something similar with the Die Hard franchise. I say I got 4 movies and a coaster. So my favorite trilogy probably is the Back to the Future trilogy. I think that's one of the strongest, if not the strongest, trilogy out there. Most people would say The Dark Knight, probably. I don't know what CP is going to say.
The new Apes movies?
Ah, yes, there you go. Good call. That's probably my second favorite trilogy.
Mm.
All right. So the last movie to talk about, and this is kind of towing that line of horror thriller. Did you get a chance to see Old?
No.
No.
It's been 3 days.
Yeah, I didn't know if your uncle had gotten a hold of
No,
it or not.
no, no, no.
So I'll wrap this up quick. So I did a review on Old. It's the worst movie that I've seen all year. Now, I have not seen a lot. Like I usually try to preface that statement. I avoid movies that I know are going to be shit. I don't watch a lot of the, like um, the Slender Man type movies where they come out and it's like everybody immediately says that's the worst movie of the year. I'm like, okay, well, I don't need to watch it. So, with that being said, it's the worst movie that I've seen all year. Also, I have yet, as of this moment, I have yet to see The Last Airbender and Lady in the Water. I need to watch both of those so I can do a ranking. With that being said, it's the worst M. Night Shyamalan movie that I've ever seen. And yes, I would watch After Earth over this.
Ugh.
I think I might be in a little bit of a minority with that because it seems like a lot of people either liked it or even really liked it, and some people didn't like it, but I strongly dislike this film. The more that I think about it, and I've even listened to a couple of reviews just to see how out of the majority I am since I've dropped my review, and the more that I hear people talk about it, the more that I dislike it. And it frustrates me because I really do champion M. Night Shyamalan as a filmmaker. I love his early stuff. His first 3 films are all absolute classics to me. I even most people like Split, so I love Split. But most people don't like Glass, and I love Glass. I love that whole trilogy.
I'm okay with that.
And I'm okay with The Visit. I like The Visit. I didn't think it was as good as everybody was saying. But so for me, he's been on an upswing. He did The Visit. He did Split. Everybody's on board again. He did Glass. Lost a couple of people. I'm still very much on board. This feels very much like that middle era M. Night Shyamalan movie that it just becomes an instant joke. So you have this concept where everybody's put on this beach. They go to this resort, and the couple of 2-3 different families go to this beach, and then they find out that while they're on this beach, they start aging rapidly, and they can't escape the beach. The problem is that rather than really explore like themes or different ways that would really mess with a human being, like they even have kids that age from 6 years old to like 15, 16 years old in a matter of hours. Rather than really explore what that would do to somebody and the psychological trauma and actually have some like real world horror of that situation, it's just a series of things that happen. It's just a series of, oh, this is what would happen if you aged rapidly. Oh, this is what would happen to this person if you aged rapidly. Oh, this is what would happen if you had a tumor and you aged rapidly. Oh, this is what would happen if you suddenly were 15 years old and you went through puberty in minutes. Oh, this is what would happen. And it's just on and on and on and on and on again. And none of them explore the consequence of what actually happens. Now, I said this in my review. Some people called it spoiler. It's in the fucking trailer. The 2 kids age up to be 15, 16, somewhere in there within a couple of hours. They're literally sitting in a tent as they suddenly are 15 or 16 years old, and they're having a conversation, and they're very clearly still mentally 6-year-old children with adult-ish bodies. Minutes later, their parents call them. They come out of the tent, and the girl is pregnant. So you're telling me with that happening that you just had the 2 6-year-old children in your movie fuck. And the movie doesn't explore it beyond, oh, she's pregnant and she's already 9 months pregnant within seconds. Something happens to the baby, which again, they show these aren't spoilers because the movie doesn't have any sort of, this doesn't affect anything past this event. It's not like there's some kind of a trauma with the characters and it's this twist and it sends the movie in a different direction. And now these 2 kids are going through this, this feelings of loss, or like, all of a sudden now they were kids and now they're grieving this kid. Like nothing. They fuck, they get pregnant, the baby, something happens to it instantaneously. And then the movie just carries on and never addresses it. never goes back to it, and it has no consequence whatsoever. And that's what happens over and over and over again. And the movie also invents rules and breaks those rules within minutes.
Awesome.
So it goes for very like scientifically accurate things. Like, for example, if you get cut with a rusty knife, within seconds, and it's in the trailer, like poison is going through your body because like tetanus. And instead of it taking months and weeks, now it's like seconds. Now it's all the way through your body. So you really got to be on the run from infection now, right? Well, 15 minutes prior, they literally cut somebody open, hold their fucking skin open with their fingers because it's healing, and this person's fine. So you just have a little pocket knife that's definitely not sanitized inside of somebody's body. You have multiple people's dirty ass hands inside of somebody's body. They're fine. But this person gets a nick and they're fucking deteriorated in front of you. And it's just beyond all of that, the dialogue in this movie is some of the worst dialogue and some of the worst performed dialogue I've ever heard. And it's so weird. Like, unless I played a clip, you can't verbally explain how weird and just off cadence all of the dialogue is. It just sounds so weird and so unnatural that you just cannot buy anything that is going on. Like, there's literally a scene in the beginning of the movie where a woman in a dining area falls down and starts having like an epileptic shock. And one of the characters that's a doctor comes over and he's like, "How can I help?" And the character that's sitting there by the woman having the shock literally looks at the guy and he goes, "My wife has epilepsy. I am a nurse. My name is Jacob." And it's like, are you a fucking robot? Like, is that the twist? Is this just aliens pretending to be humans? And the whole movie is like that.
Why is his name relevant?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the dialogue is that way throughout the entire fucking movie. You got a random ass guy that's on this beach. Is a black guy. He's kind of like the token gangster character. The daughter shows up and she's like, "Oh, that's that famous rapper." And then they like, "What's his name?" The dude's rap name is Mid-Sized Sedan. And they never bring it up again. And it's like, is that supposed to be funny? Or is that just M. Night Shyamalan, like, really being out of touch with rap culture or what? Like, the whole movie just has these weird things to where it just feels like I've said numerous times that I love The Happening for all of the unintentional comedy. If I watch that movie with the intention to laugh, I have a blast with it. It's the same level of incompetence with The Happening with none of the unintentional comedy. So you watch it and you're like, how the fuck is this the same guy that gave us The Sixth Sense? How the fuck is this the same guy that gave us Unbreakable? Like, if I didn't tell you this was a Shyamalan movie, when you walked out of it, aside from seeing a twist and be like, "What is this, a Shyamalan movie?" It's unrecognizable.
You would think some genius is behind Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, those types of movies. But I was at a press event for The Visit, and M. Night was there talking, and the things he was saying was shit that an idiot you'd hear a moron say, and it was just like, this is your movie and you're making jokes about the characters and like what.
Yeah, he just kind of baffles me because like it's like he has almost two different personalities.
Yeah,
he has one side that still can deliver world-class movies that instantly become classics and are like some of the best of all time, and then he has the opposite half that gives you some of the most cringy, just unfathomable fails of all time. And it's the same fucking guy.
I think he understands like certain emotion, but he doesn't understand emotions between characters. He understands like fear and what you go through with that, but he doesn't understand like love and.
Yeah, it's just weird. Well, he understands that. He shows that in the first three movies that he did. I mean, love's very prominent in Sixth Sense. Love's prominent in Signs.
Is love prominent in Sixth Sense?
The love between Bruce Willis and his wife. and kind of him being able to let go, or her being able to let go. Maybe not prominent, but it's there. Like it's a through line and part of it. So like to me, it is.
Everybody's
But-
single in that movie.
So when you get to this and you just look at the script and you listen to the dialogue and these characters, and like even to the point where the whole thing, like you've heard of like show don't tell.
Yeah.
His is like tell don't tell. Like instead of taking the time to introduce us to a character and through the story show us who this character is, like who they are as a person, or give us some details. No, he just kind of like cuts like that out and just says, okay, we're just going to get the details really quick. So like there's even a spot in the movie where he makes the youngest kid go around and ask everybody, quote, what's your name and occupation? And like he's supposed to be like a quirky little kid, but literally it's like a lazy plot device so that by the time we get to the island, we already know who everybody is because the kid went around and fucking asked everybody in one scene.
Yeah.
So you get to the island and it's like, oh yeah, that guy's a doctor and that's all I know about him. Oh, that's the trophy wife. There's a guy that he runs into in the beach, like just absolute random scene. They're all on the beach right before they get told about this secluded side of the beach where the kid walks up to the guy. He's like, hi, what's your name and occupation? Just a random ass character. And he's like, oh, I'm a police officer. He's like, oh, okay, bye. And then runs away. And it's like, I wonder if that's going to come into play by the end of the movie. And it's so on the nose, like lazy as fuck writing to where it's baffling. And the more I think about it, the more I go over these details, I'm just like, how the fuck did this movie even come to be? Like, how did nobody look at this guy and like, you know, your whole reputation that you fought like hell to get out of, that like haunted you like a motherfucker for like 10 years. Yeah, this isn't going to help. It's just, I can't say much more on it. Like it's a movie that you would almost have to do like a commentary on and just riff on it the whole time. But it's just, I watched it.
Well, I'm eager to at least get my toes in the water now, at least. And I have to give you credit, although you're partially hackish. You're the only YouTube reviewer I've seen in thumbnails to not make yourself old in the thumbnail for the thing. You went full skeleton.
Yeah. I did that on purpose.
Holy shit.
Because I knew certain YouTubers that we know, and I'll tell you after we get off air, but certain YouTubers that we know had already posted thumbnails, and I was like, I'm not doing the same thing as them. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go a little bit further with mine. I'm going to make the hair transition and do all this. So yeah, put a little extra effort into it.
Yeah, a lot of people did the same fucking thing, and it's just like, nobody. You're trying to be creative, and now nobody is.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that pretty much wraps it all up. We've been going for 2.5 hours, so I'm probably testing my wife's patience because I was like, I'll be down a little after 7. It's going to be a little after 8.
Did we answer that cabin fever?
That I was just getting ready to wrap up with that. Okay. Is cabin fever good? It depends on what your feelings are with Eli Roth and his writing. The concept of cabin fever, I think, is awesome. Kind of having a slasher movie where the slasher is a disease. There's some good gore in it, but there is some extremely weird dialogue and extremely weird moments. Pancakes, that's all I have to say. There's also some really good nudity in it too. Not to be a perverted man, but if you're into movies, horror movies for that, it's you can do a lot worse. Yes, so it depends on how you feel about Eli Roth, but I would say it's okay. I love the concept. I don't love the execution. But with that said, that is going to bring this episode of Dead Air to a close, unless there's any more movies that you wanted to touch on really quick. I think we covered the whole year pretty well. Yeah,
recently I actually did 2 tight reviews, so you can go over to my channel and I talk about Gunpowder Milkshake and Censor. I actually did reviews with editing and everything.
There you go. Escape Room 2. I don't think either one of us saw that, Dale.
Nope.
So we got nothing to say. Didn't bother with that one either. So yes, you guys go support those reviews. Go support the edited content on CP's channel, please. Not the impromptu. All right, here's your answers. Now don't ask me again, streams. So go support those. As far as this channel, I'm going on vacation this weekend. So I'm going to try my best to get a couple of videos primed and ready so I can release it, but we're going to see how time goes. So I've got my M. Night Shyamalan ranking coming out at some point. That might have to push till next weekend, depending on how fast I can watch these other two movies. Dexter is filmed, just not edited. I've got a couple of Hellraiser reviews in the can. You're not going to see those until I have all of them ready, so that might be about a month away. And then what fucking new release do we have coming out? Let me see really quick. So Jungle Cruise. I'm supposed to be getting the screener for that tonight. I don't know if I have yet or not. I don't see an email from them. Yep, I do have the screener. So possibly a review for Jungle Cruise. I'm not really excited to watch it, but yeah. The Green Knight, I have no idea what the fuck that is. That's also coming out. So Suicide Squad, that's probably the next review you'll see of me from a new movie that comes out on the 5th. And then we'll see. So, tomorrow night, I'm going to try my damnedest to do a Child's Play 3 commentary. I have a patron that directly sent me money just to do that. So I want to fulfill that for sure. And I don't want to wait till after my vacation. So very strong chance we'll do that tomorrow night. But I'll keep you guys posted. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. It's been fun hanging out. We will be back soon. Enjoy the rest of your night.